T-minus one more day until the start of the 2025 NFL Draft in Green Bay. Howard Simon and Joe Marino continue to put up draft profiles at our website, WGR550.com. Wide receivers have been the latest position to get a look at, with TCU's Jack Bech and Iowa State's Jaden Higgins, among others, being highlighted. And our coverage of the 2025 NFL Draft on WGR is presented by Field Car and Joyce, your border attorneys, and brought to you by New York's only outlet liquor. When you need to stock up, it's the best place to buy a case. What's your outlet? By Northtown Automotive Group, Northtown Automotive, the official automotive dealer of the Buffalo Bills, and by Quilted Squirrel. Great websites, more leads, real growth for your business. Learn more at tqsmarketing.com. Coverage is going to start tomorrow at 7 p.m. with Nate Geary, Derek Kramer, and myself having you covered throughout round one in Green Bay. Sal Capaccio will join us as well throughout the evening, and do stay tuned. Sal's going to join today's show at 5 p.m. Saints picking up their fifth-year option on wide receiver Chris Olave, but are not doing so for offensive tackle Trevor Penning, and we do know who will be participating in this year's Hall of Fame game. It'll be Detroit taking on the Chargers. That game will be held on July 31st. Playoff action tonight, 3 games in the NHL. Washington hosts Montreal. Capitals looking to take a 2-0 series lead at 7. Game 3 for Stars Avalanche. That series is all tied up. It's going to go off at 9:30. Then at 10, Game 2 of Oilers and Kings. We also have 3 games in the NBA. 7 p.m. sees Boston hosting Orlando. Jason Tatum, game time decision due to a wrist injury for Boston. 7:30, the Cavs have the Heat in town. Then 9:30, the Rockets take on the Warriors. And then the Bisons, they are at home. They have a single admission doubleheader versus Rochester. That'll begin at 4:30, and you can listen to that game on our sister station, The Bet 1520. That's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update. Paddock Chevrolet, celebrating 90 years of being your hometown dealership. I'm Zach Jones for WGR Sports Radio 550.
It's Mike Schopp and the Bulldog.
Uh-oh, guess what day it is? Guess what day it is? Huh? Anybody?
Monday, Tuesday, hump day is halfway. It's Mike Schopp.
Mike. What day is it, Mike?
And the Bulldog.
Hey, guess what day it is? Oh, come on, I know you can hear me.
It's Mike Schopp and the Bulldog.
Guess what today is?
It's hump day.
Woo-hoo!
On WGR
Hump Day
Sports Radio 550.
It is draft eve. How do you like how they space out the draft? Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday. Is that maybe perfect how they do it? Hump Day, I've just thought of this now because of the song. I'm thinking about it being Wednesday. You know, I kind of want the draft to be the end of the week, but it's not quite. I think it's good. I
have to say I do think it's good. I wish I could object and complain about them dragging it out and drawing us in for 3 days. But really, to varying degrees, this is my normal draft arc. Is Thursday, there's hockey games. And so I'll start flipping to the draft before the draft starts. The hockey games, I think tomorrow there's a hockey game at 6:30, right? So you get some lead time on the draft. Be watching a hockey game. I'm into the hockey game. The draft is starting. I start flipping over, and there's still no picks. They're just talking. And let me go back to the hockey game. I got to check on the draft. And I end up just sitting there maybe for an hour before the drafting actually starts because I like the draft so much. I've realized over the years I've just succumbed to it, right? And then
yes, that's the word.
And then that's it. That is a I don't know, a 3 or 4 hour ride depending on how, where the Bills are picking. This year, if they stay at 30, it'll be 11:40, 11:45, somewhere in there is where that pick has come in the last few years. So that's your haul. Friday, okay, work-wise, we're pouring over what they did, what's coming next. And then Friday night is like, same sort of thing, but it takes a little longer for me to get there. Like I'm not gonna watch any of the pre, but it starts earlier. I think it starts right at 7.
Yeah,
I think
tomorrow's 8.
Yeah. So, but out to dinner with friends, or like in this case, Friday night I'm going to a concert. I will not be like glued to the draft, but I really will want to know what the Bills are doing with their 56 and 62. Like those picks really matter. Saturday, best of intentions. I usually end up finding what they did all at once at like 8 o'clock. I'm not sitting in front of the TV, analyzing, hoping they get Mel's best available, at pick 148 or something. And it's like, all right, I'll read about all these dudes on Saturday night or Sunday morning when I'm having my coffee.
Last year,
that's my draft track.
Last year on the Saturday, I set out to watch the whole thing because there were a lot of running backs and receivers left, and I'm, at this point in my life, sort of like evolving backwards, I feel like. I'm now at 53. I'm at the point in my life where I'm just giddy for who's going where. And so I set out to watch Saturday, went to a friend's house, and it didn't really take. Like, I watched the 4th round maybe, and I was done. I'm not going to...
Right.
Even me, I will not spend an entire Saturday at... I've never done that. I've never watched the whole Saturday.
I have done that when it was, Saturday was what, rounds 1 through 3, and then, or the whole thing was Saturday?
Oh, okay, no,
I
you're
think
right.
1 through 3, then Sunday would be 4 through 7, maybe, is how I remember it anyway. I don't think it was ever all one. Well, I think way back it might have all been one day, one shot, starting at like 11 a.m. or something.
It definitely was, although now I'm questioning myself after yesterday with the hockey thing.
Yeah, right.
But it definitely was. It would be on a Tuesday.
Yeah,
and it would be like a day where you'd pretend to be sick from school, right? So you could watch the draft.
But when it was Saturday at noon, starting right, round 1 was noon Saturday. That was often, I've referenced this before. It's when I've liked the draft this much for long enough that it goes back to it being before it was Thursday and Friday. Saturday at noon, like, I got stuff to do. I'm not going to be held hostage to this. I got yard cleaning the windows, lawn, whatever, and I end up in the house with a beer by 12:30, just staring at the TV. And I would watch most, all of round 1 into round 2 on a Saturday like that. And, nobody, my wife always has given me a lot of room with it's work.
It's work, yeah.
Right?
Definitely at or near the top of the sporting events list for this is actually work.
Yeah. I
have to use the work card.
Yeah. So I have burned Saturdays, but I was much younger when I did that. And it's been a while. It's been they pinned it down this morning. I heard a little bit of the morning show today, and they mentioned it like 2015 maybe is when this started, or maybe it goes back even farther than that. I don't remember. But the Thursday Friday thing is still relatively new.
I happened to be looking up the 2015 draft today. The only one I looked up happens to be 2015. It's not because I heard that or knew that. It's not safe for work. The Bills draft in 2015, you do not want to get caught having it on your screen at work. Well, there's no first-round pick because of Watkins. Then it's Darby. Then it's John Miller. Someone named John Miller.
Oh, sure, offensive lineman. Guard, Miller.
There's no 4th because of Watkins, I think, also. And then it's guys. It was not impressive. When you don't have a first, it's harder to look good. But yeah, 2015. I did come across some interesting new takes, mock drafts, and I want to throw a couple out here.
Okay.
We will have Nick Kostos coming up at 3:30. You better you bet on props and the Bills in general. Chris Trapasso today, his final visit with us before the draft, of course. Christian Benford will stop by, and then Sal as well. So we'll be busy with guests, at least for a while here.
Just real quick, just because I was going to kill myself if I was this far off it. 2010 is when they moved to the Thursday.
Okay.
So that's... Okay.
You had some way of thinking 15 because I was thinking about 15. It somehow went over there. Mike Renner, longtime draft analyst, was PFF, now with CBS. He was on a mock draft at Establish the Run. That's Evan Silva's site. And they just sort of go around in a group, 4 or 5 guys taking turns. No trades in this mock draft. So, I mean, there will be trades tomorrow night that will mix things up. But it got to Renner at 30. He had the Bills at 30. And he basically said, we need a corner here, but I think he was saying, and I want to ask Chris this, drafting a cornerback in round 1 or especially late in round 1, like historically is really no different than picking one in rounds 2 or 3. Like you don't have a better hit rate. He didn't go into it, but that was, I think, the take that I don't want to have to draft a corner here. I could see him doing the gesture that I'm making here in the studio. Hi, Twitch, where just like, ugh, this is how it fell. Okay. So that might be the likeliest outcome for them, where they draft a corner. Yeah. And I am here to say that this will be my gesture tomorrow if it happens. Partly because of what Mike said, which is like, all right, well, I'm just going to have to take my par here or whatever. And can they get somebody who is amazing? Of course. Just doesn't seem like ideal for hitting a homer, drafting a corner at 30. But they might feel like they have to do it.
Yep. They did hit on Tre'Davious White at 27,
yes,
for whatever that's worth. So, I mean, you can pick and choose and cherry pick stuff. But, yeah, it's probably right. It might even be right all like in a number of positions that the hit rate, as far as like what I don't know, whatever the criteria is, Pro Bowl, second contract, whatever you're looking for out of that pick. It might be a lot of positions that are kind of like that. Like 30 to 50 is pretty similar, or 30 to 60 even might be pretty similar.
And it's supposed to be that kind of year anyway.
That's what it sounds like, yeah. I do really, it's hard to, when you say everything for so many weeks and months even, like we've been doing, right? We're talking about all kinds of different scenarios. And, there's of course, there's not a limitless amount of possibilities. There's only so many positions, and you can eliminate a couple of them, I think, entirely from consideration that early in the draft. Although I have seen the Bills attached to a couple of off-ball linebackers lately as we're getting closer to D-Day here, and that would be in my no-fly zone. But corner, it just feels so much like 21 to me, where, we're in here. Yeah, I could use a receiver. I don't know, what if Luther Burden falls? D-tackle, edge, whatever we're talking. Corner is still the position. I love Nick Emenwuri. Like, if he were on the board, even though that's not a big need, the biggest need they have, that's the player I would want, because I just think that's a transcendent talent, and I'd be really excited about that. But what do I know? Corner just still looks to me like if I had a Bills depth chart out, I have one on my computer screen, but if I had one out here that I had like customized for my own needs, I feel like corner would still be, it'd be like Dayglow orange highlighting the spot opposite Benford.
Maybe. You mean 22 when they drafted Elam?
Sorry, 22 is what I meant. Sorry.
Because it is, 21 is Rousseau, and it does feel like that too. Where like, I guess they're going to feel like they have to do this.
And they did it twice.
And they did it twice, which is probably at least a little bit of, we don't really love this, but we're going to do it, and then we're going to do it again, because this is where we're attacking, this is where we're short. I mean, it's not bad that a team drafts where they're short. It's just kind of obvious. It's what everybody's doing, trying to predict the draft, predict it, is, all right, well, this team needs a tackle, so, boom. But, whether it's defensive tackle or corner, probably... This isn't bad either, but at pick 30, probably the guy you're getting tops out at what Rousseau is. He tops out as a player that, he's a good NFL player. Mm-hmm. And you have a somewhat, maybe, challenging decision about the second contract, but you get, in Rousseau's case, you got there. Like that, that's a hit. I guess that's a single, maybe. What's Rousseau as a draft pick? In that metaphor, what is he? Is he a double? Is he a single?
I'd want to give it a double, I think.
Okay.
He's good, and he did earn the second contract. I didn't have any... The only qualms I had about a second contract for him was whether they would go bigger than that, like make an off-season trade for Myles Garrett or something, in which case then I wouldn't have been crazy about giving Rousseau a second contract in the $20 million range, but they didn't do that, so fine. There's our word. I think he's fine. He's pretty good. And he has his moments, and he's made some plays, and, okay. I don't think he's not a weak link, that's for sure. But he's not either a guy, like, I don't think defenses are going, oh, my God. Our offenses, are going, oh, my God, we got to deal with this guy.
Fine, as I see it, covers a lot of territory. It's a bell curve, and fine is that big middle area. You've got elite and you've got bad.
Right.
And most guys are fine. Most guys are,
right.
They're also not all playing really important positions. So maybe fine is really the best you can do in that case. I don't know. But yeah, fine covers a lot of ground.
Yeah.
Drew Dinsick from the Roto-World podcast. So they had a conversation. He's a handicapper. And he brought up the Bills a couple of times. I'm not sure they asked him about the Bills, but his take is he sounded like somebody that really knows it. His prediction is that a number of veteran running backs will be traded, that the league is going to turn over to an extent at the running back position. When we talk about Cook, I keep thinking, like, these trades are really hard for me to make sense of because why wouldn't I just draft somebody on a rookie contract that's maybe just as good instead of trading for him?
And then paying him
$15
million
that
or
number.
whatever he wants.
Yeah, like why would Denver needs a running back? Why would Denver do that? You'd have to hope.
I said the exact thing to a friend of mine who texted me today about Cook. Just like, hey, not for nothing. I don't want to bug you. You probably get bothered with this all the time. I mean, it's cool. It's fine. This guy's never asked me a football question before. You think Cook's getting traded like that? No. I think why? Why would a team want to do what you just said? Doesn't make sense.
This analyst said, again, he thinks running backs will be traded. They also said in this podcast, like, if the Raiders don't draft Genty, their running back will be Kenneth Walker or Charbonnet from Seattle. Like, Pete Carroll will get one of his Seattle guys and ride him. And he brought up Cook in this conversation. Like, if the Bills don't want to make that, deal with him, then they would want to move him, or they could. And if they do, they could pick a running back at 30 to replace him with, because then you're probably getting the third running back off the board. You're getting Travion Henderson or whoever it is your flavor is from the running backs, which would be very exciting if, not inefficient, but it would be very exciting. And he pointed out that the odds, the Vegas odds on the Bills drafting a running back first are 38-1, which seems amazing. Like that's like a quarterback for me would be close to 38-1. I mean, but brought it up as a realistic possibility. So there's another one. There's another guy. And that's, now we're getting a little crazy.
Yeah.
And if you missed Ross Tucker yesterday, he was willing to get a little crazy with the Bills because I didn't ask the question very well. Like, defense, right? And I was with way more words than that. But like, Ross, defense, right? For them? He's like, I don't know.
Yeah, he stuck up for receiver, which I liked because that's what I've been doing too. Well, a couple things. I would not love drafting a running back at 30. I love the idea of replacing Cook. I'm not eager to do it, but if there's a market out there that wants to pay you a third-round pick for James Cook, say, I want the Bills to be involved in that market. Like if this guy is right, and that's going to happen on Thursday or maybe Friday, then I want to be involved in that because I might be able to even, get younger, rookie contract, all the stuff that Cook has been. And I don't know, I don't want to say assume an upgrade because this class is so deep. And I also don't want to chase an upgrade by doing it in the first round necessarily. But if you can replenish that and replace what he's been in your rotation with someone you draft on Friday or even Saturday, I'm fine here. So I'd want to be in on that if that's available, but not so much to draft the Ohio State guy at 30 myself. I would rather, push
56
that.
56 or 62 for running back 6.
Yeah. I think that would be plenty for my team for what I'm looking for. So I like that idea just fine. I'm really curious if there will be veteran running back. Like Charbonnet's a little different. He's young enough that his contract isn't up yet, right? Mm-hmm. So like he's a different, but Walker is probably the same as Cook, right? He's got to be getting close anyway to contract time. I feel like he's been around for
3 years. Maybe is Cook 3 years?
Yeah, Cook is 3 years. And Walker was not a first round pick. So he's, I think, in the same boat that Cook is.
He might have been picked in the same second round as Cook.
Okay. So, and I don't know what kind of noise he's made, if any. Is he tweeting eyeball emojis about $15 million running back contracts or anything? I don't know. Googly eyes. But if guys in that situation, if there's a market for them and teams are paying for them, it would blow my mind because of this running back class. You can just draft a rookie. But, teams do like to have as much certainty as they can have, and you just still don't know. As easy as it seems to plug and play anyone you're going to pick in the draft, almost in any round. I'm going to get him on the field, it'd be okay for me. I could do better than that, sure. Why you'd spend all that money right away for a guy on his second contract? But teams, if they believe in the guy, they think this guy's exactly what we need, and okay.
A team that could do it would be the Bills if they didn't have Cook. Like if they had, if somebody was hurt or old, like if they needed a running back, that because of their the state of things with their the championship window. Okay, well, this is a tough one, but okay. We will trade for a running back who can get in the end zone and break off runs because we want to spare no expense. We will give you a draft pick for a guy that we know can play. That's the logic. If there's another team like the Bills in that kind of situation, then there's your chance. I don't know who that really is. I mean, again, Denver, the guy that it sounds like they're hot for right now is Genty. That's going from 20 to 5. But that's today's speculation is that Denver will make a move for him because they'd have to get him. One more, and I really don't know what to do with it, but Tony Pauline, draft analyst, reports that the Bills have first-round grades on 12 players.
I read his piece today. I saw that.
What more is there to say about it? Anything?
It's not. It's maybe shockingly low, but at the same time, not that surprising. I mean, it's not. I've been saying all along here, right? 15 maybe, and that's the beginning of the plateau. So that's not that far off. And that's just a guess. I mean, I haven't been really studying, but just feels like that could be the way people have been characterizing it right from the start.
Why do the Bills want it out? Because then maybe they'll seem more available for a trade?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, assuming it came from them, but I would imagine it had to in some way. I don't know how else you would find that out.
100% the guy they pick will be one of the 12.
Oh, yeah.
Will be announced as one of the 12.
They will never admit that it was not a guy they had a first-round grade on.
And Genty and Cam Ward and Travis Hunter and Abdul Carter would be among the 12, or would they not have first-round grades on them? Right. That was kind of what we did with Sal yesterday.
Interesting, the way Sal was talking about describing how they put their grades together, it is Bills specific, so they might not have a first-round grade on Cam Ward. I was thinking about that when I left yesterday. Just thinking, was that more interesting than we even made it? Because I've always felt like you would that job is grading the prospects, right? So you're putting a board together, and yes, I mean, at the end of it, you want it to spit out the results you need or are seeking. But if you're stacking the players and trying to figure out what's going to happen, I think you would objectively grade the guys even though you're not picking them.
Of course.
But it doesn't sound like they do that.
I don't know. I couldn't really understand some of it yesterday, but of course you would. You know, that Giants board that got leaked last year with all the colors and people trying to figure out what the different colors meant and everything like that? Everybody's on it.
Right.
I mean, it's Caleb Williams was on that board. Everybody's on it. There's no chance of the Bills getting Travis Hunter. So how do they want to spin it? We did grade him. We didn't grade him. We graded him a D. How do they want to spin it? I really kind of don't care.
Yeah.
But you'd like to know if 12 first-round grades is accurate, if the very elite guys they have no chance of would be included in that, because if they are, I mean,
Then you're picking from a pool of like 6 guys.
Yeah, I mean, you're not getting a player in the first round that you have a first-round grade on.
Right.
Almost definitely, if that's the case. Nick Kostos coming up next. We'll continue on the draft pretty much all day. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog here, WGR.
And like that's it. Then I'll know I made it. That forget the OSO, forget talking with you guys. Thursday night is when I will have officially made it.
Love that.
Well, we're very happy for you.
I saw the picture from your vacation, or one of them, and I thought, this is going to be one of these times tomorrow where we're talking to Ross, and he's on a beach, and he might have had a couple, and that's fine. A little bit more energy, maybe. Not that you ever lack it, but it did turn out that you went home. So, for better or worse, we don't have beachside.
We don't
Ross.
have Bahamas Ross.
Bahamas Ross.
Oh yeah, no, we are full-fledged back to reality, and I am on my way to pick up my daughters from one of their 3 dance classes, because you can't just do one. You can't just do one dance. You got to do jazz. You got to do hip hop. I think tonight is theater. I don't even know what theater dance means. What does that even mean? But anyway, that's where they are.
It's a Tuesday at 5, isn't it? The 3 of us talking, and you're on your way to pick your daughters up. Well, Ross, we don't have as much time as we would during the season, I know. The Bills at pick 30. We've been talking about this in here every day since the Super Bowl, at least. And it sounds to almost every analyst like it's going to be defense there. Does it seem that way to you?
I'm not as convinced of that as other people are.
Okay.
Actually. I forgot, by the way, that the Bills had 2 second-round picks. Refresh my memory on how they got the other one.
Stephon Diggs.
Oh, my gosh. The gift that keeps on giving. That is huge, especially in this draft. You guys know I'm a big fan of Brandon Beane. And I guess you don't know how the draft is going to go. What I will say, though, is everybody I talk to will tell you it's like one of the best D-tackle drafts in terms of depth. Maybe not top 10 guys, like Warren Sell for Aaron Donald, but in terms of depth at D-end and D-tackle, which I would just say makes his sort of spending spree, with Joey Bosa and Michael Hoyt and Ogunjobi. And not that they, went overboard with any of those guys, but
from several different sources telling me there are teams who are looking to get up in this draft to either the 2 or the 3 spot. The assumption being to move up to the 2 or the 3 spot, it would be for Abdul Carter, Travis Hunter, or Ashton Genty, who everyone expects to go somewhere in that 5 to 7 to 8 range. There have been teams making calls, and those teams are not immediately slamming down the phone. The Browns at 2, the Giants at 3.
He's ready. Peter Schrager. One thing I thought was interesting about the Roto-World discussion I mentioned earlier on their podcast with Drew Dinsick was he sounded like a guy with a lot of experience handicapping the draft, and how Schrager and a couple other longtime analysts, Daniel Jeremiah worked for teams, I think. The guys you hear referenced a lot, maybe the most, for like, all right, this guy, if anybody knows, this one knows, have backed off of, scoops, kind of like you said before about yourself, succumb to the draft, to the machine. So what does it mean when the Browns and the Giants are not exactly slamming down the phone? Does it mean anything?
No.
It doesn't mean anything, right?
I think as we get closer today, I feel like every day I'm in the business of, looking for content, anything that's, germane to our conversations about the draft. And I feel like today is the day that the smoke is getting really thick. It's like there's more injury concerns about this guy and that guy, and like that. Almost always, to me, my default mechanism is that's teams that want the guy to fall. They're just hoping against hope, and I don't have to be. I probably have been right about that sometimes, but it's probably not right all the time. But I always think that's just garbage.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yes, on that same show, they talked about Jacksonville. Did you notice yesterday it was Genty, and then it was someone else, then it was someone else. Jacksonville just trying to push, trying to get their phone to ring. On our phone is Nick Costos here on the Webster Hotline from You Better You Bet. Nick, thanks for joining us.
What's going on, guys? How are we doing today? We
are doing great. I am both drafted out, but I know by Tuesday I'm going to miss it. It's just been it's been every day here since the playoff loss, and it's time for it to get here.
I completely agree. And even from my perspective, right, as someone who's trying to figure out this puzzle so I can bet it, try and slot the guys in properly. The draft is not just from a betting perspective, the draft is not like a game, right, where you can have an opinion on a game and the game starts and maybe you're right, or maybe a player gets hurt, or the ball bounces a certain way, or the referee makes a bad call. The draft is do you have the goods or do you not? Do you know what the general manager is going to do, or do you not? And I think where people can get in trouble thinking about the draft is, well, I think that Travis Hunter is the best player in the draft, so the Titans should draft him, so that's what I'm going to bet. So, they're going to draft Cam Ward. So they can do things that you disagree with, and that's where you kind of have to suspend your opinion from stuff and just try to figure out what is this team going to do, as opposed to here's what I would do if I were in charge of this team.
And it's mostly, too, just playing the market, right? We can't bet the draft in New York, go to Pennsylvania. But if I have an idea, by the time I get the hour and a half into Pennsylvania, if it's based on something, the market's moved. You have to sort of be right or wrong. You kind of have to be staring at it all the time and then reacting to whatever might be causing certain line movement.
Well, I would say, driving to Pennsylvania, I would say would be a foolish thing to do. You just know someone in Pennsylvania and send a text. I got people in New Jersey. I'm in New York also. I'm in New York City. Send a text to someone in Jersey. Send a text to somebody in Connecticut and be able to get some stuff down.
That's fair.
I would say for the most part, as far as market moves are concerned, I'll give you an example. And this is the bet does not have to win. So this is going to sound like I'm touting myself here. The bet has not won. It may not win. 2 weeks ago on You Better You Bet, we were talking about Colston Loveland being the first tight end selected over Tyler Warren at a big price. Peter Schrager of ESPN, who does an awesome job for them, tweets on Sunday night, don't be surprised if Colston Loveland goes earlier than expected, and the market moves off of that. Now, these are not high limits, right? So, you can't bet as much on an NFL draft pick as you can a game, right? That's not how this goes, so it doesn't take a ton, to move the market, really.
Right.
But, yeah, it's just being able to get ahead of stuff before like Mel Kiper says on ESPN, I'm hearing this to this, people want to bet it. Like there are ways to finagle this kind of before like the big national guys come out with it. That's what we try and do on You Bet or You Bet over the course of the draft process.
It's so funny. I'm sorry, Bulldog. I just got to say, like a couple of times Nick has tweeted. He does a lot. What is your favorite bet for this game or something? And a couple times I've responded, and Nick has immediately said, "That's mine." Which is funny because our shows overlap. I don't always get to hear it. And my bet for this draft is Loveland. Same exact thing. Like that's been my favorite idea this whole time. I'm worried about it now because like there's an injury thing with him, and Warren's team doesn't seem to be slowing down. But I've always liked that bet, so I flatter myself to join your level when it comes to these things.
Yeah, the bet does not have to win.
Yeah,
I think we got it at a good price. I think at the time it was placed, it was way more likely than the betting market thought. I still think there's a good chance that it can happen. Like gun to my head, like life on the line, who do I think is going to go first? I would say that Warren has more outs because I don't think like the Jets would take Tyler Warren. The Jets would take Colston Loveland, but they could take Tyler Warren. So I do think it's more likely that Warren goes, but I mean, this is all about price, right? At a big plus money price, I love the bet on Colston Loveland to be the first tight end. That price, for what it's worth, does not exist anymore.
Nick, we do a weekly thing with Sam Paniatovich from Bet Sweats, and we were talking, I don't know if it was last week or 2 weeks ago now, second quarterback off the board, Milroe. That was the one that, and the number was really big, like
80.
plus, yeah, right? Like really nice. And like, that's my kind of action. Like it's probably not going to win, but I think that is still, I think there's a chance that could happen. Like this, whether people believe in Sanders or not, I don't know about Jackson Dart, but Milroe, it seems like there's more and more. He's the best athlete. He's the best. He's got the highest ceiling of anyone. And I don't know, in a world where we saw Penix shock and the Falcons shock everyone with Penix last year at 8 overall, I feel like Milroe's live for at least a chance. Like if I were going to drive to Pennsylvania or knew someone in Pennsylvania, that's the action I think I would want.
I would caution against like a Penix Milroe comparison, like wildly different prospects.
Oh no, I know, I know.
Yeah.
I'm just merely talking about just the concept of a team falling in love with a guy enough to do it like that early.
Sure, I guess, but like the idea even was like Penix was going to go in the first round. I just didn't. No one thought Atlanta was going to take him. I would just say this, and this is my best guess right now, and I want to be clear. Like it's an educated guess what I'm about to say, but it's still a guess. I'm not in any of these GMs' heads. I talked to a ton of people, and I think I have a pretty good idea of how this is going to go, but it could not go this way. Like, it doesn't have to go the way that I'm going to say I think it's going to go right now. So here's my best guess at this moment as to how the quarterbacks are going to go in the draft. Cam Ward's going 1. Like, that's done. Like, it's done. Mm-hmm. We know that's happening. The Titans are taking Cam Ward. I would not be shocked if Shedeur Sanders fell out of the first round. One of the consistent things that I have been hearing, and I buy it, so I don't think it's BS. People I trust, a number of people I trust all say this, and pretty much everybody says it, that Shedeur Sanders, and it doesn't mean that he can't or won't be great in the NFL, that he has turned teams off with his attitude in these pre-draft interviews. Now, I heard what you guys were saying before I came on, that some of this could be anonymous stuff like before the draft to try and drive someone, like maybe a team would put that out there that wants to take him, right? So he falls a little bit. I don't think that's what this is. I would not be shocked if Sanders had a big draft slide. Also, for what it's worth, he's not attending the draft. He was invited to attend, turned down the invitation. So my best guess right now is that Sanders is not the second quarterback taken, which brings us now to the Jackson Darts of the world, to the Jalen Milrolls of the world, and the Tyler Shucks of the world. Tyler Shuck, whose name is spelled Shough, but pronounced Shuck,
somehow.
Out of Louisville, is almost 26 years old. Like 3 injury-riddled seasons at Louisville. Like, no one talked about him for months. Like, unless you're a huge college football fan, you had no idea who this guy was during the college football season. Now is being bandied about as maybe being, like, the second quarterback selected in the draft, where, I have heard, like, that the Browns love Tyler Shuck, and they have what? They have Joe Flacco and Kenny Pickett now. It would make sense they'd want to add a rookie, that maybe they take Shuck at the top of the second round, maybe trade back in to the end of the first round to select Tyler Shuck. I've heard that the Giants like Shuck, and the Giants also like Jackson Dart. Those are coming from 2 different people that I respect, so this is just kind of like a shrug emoji a little bit. And Milroe does make a lot of sense for some teams. Like, I think he's more of a Giants quarterback than he is like another team, just because, and this is me dot connecting here, and this is where you kind of get into trouble when you talk about the draft, is now here's my opinion. My opinion means nothing. Like, all it takes is one GM or coach to disagree, and I'm wrong. But Milroe does seem to fit like the Brian Dable prototype, right?
Yep. Josh Allen, like lots of athleticism. Yeah.
Correct. So if I had to guess right now, if I wanted to make, like a plus money bet like you were talking about, I can't believe that I'm saying this. I would take a shot on Tyler Schopp to be the second quarterback selected.
He played college football in 2018. Like Kyler Murray played.
He's like 26 years old.
Josh Allen was drafted in 2018.
I mean, just look up the 2018 college football season on Wikipedia, and the names are like guys that have been in the league forever, it seems. Right. Trevor Lawrence, Kyler Murray to CeeDee Lamb. Nick Kostos, our guest here on the West Her Hotline. Do you have any thoughts on the Bills, either from a betting standpoint or just in general? Almost all of our conversations with analysts this season, Nick, have revolved around defensive line and cornerback. But, you run into the occasional analyst who thinks that they could get a little crazy.
I don't think they'll get crazy. I think that, most likely I would say secondary, which could be safety as well. Malachi Starks is a name I've heard a lot about in correlation with the Buffalo Bills. So defensive line / edge is the betting favorite at You Bet show sponsor BetMGM. I think corner and safety are both more likely than defensive line. And I want to be clear again, this doesn't mean that it's going to win, just that that's the bet that I would rather place. I do not think, because I've had some people ask me, do you think the Bills could take a running back in the first round with the James Cook contract drama, which I think would be absolutely insane. I think Ray Davis is awesome. I think Ty Johnson's awesome. Like, they definitely do not need to do that. I guess, if like one of like the big receivers fell, like for some reason, like Ibuka is on the board or Matthew Golden or Ted McMillan, which I doubt that any of them are still on the board. Like, you could make a case that maybe they should go do that. But I mean, you would expect Keon Coleman to emerge, in his second year coming up here. My best guess is a member of the secondary for Buffalo, a corner or a safety, if I had to guess.
Yeah, Starks more and more. This has been like a Starks week. I don't think I'd seen him mock to the Bills ever one time before this week, and now it's popping up pretty regularly.
Look out, then.
So I wonder if there's something behind that, like you're saying, like you're hearing from people, or if it's just people throwing darts and they haven't picked Starks to the Bills yet. So I guess I'll try that.
I don't think. I don't think it's that, but I will say I don't want to call it groupthink. That's not what it is. But and this is going to sound again like I'm elevating myself to the level. It's just not meant to be what this is. But like, I'll do stuff on You Bet on Tuesday, and then on Thursday morning, like an insider will tweet, like, don't be surprised if this happens. That's not to say, like, Nick Kostos, I'm so great. It just means that everybody talks to the same people that are in these circles. Like, we all talk to the same people. So I think it's less like dart throwing and more like, someone's heard something, and then they pass it to someone else, and all of a sudden it's spreading like wildfire.
Right. Before you go, Nick, so the Bills' win total is not only a lofty 11.5, which of course they've cleared a couple of times here, but also at like minus 145-ish toward the over. It seems like, the Bills have set a standard that they've met consistently in the regular season, but maybe the market is saying here that we just all hate the rest of the teams in the division. That there's no way they won't win 5 games in their division or something like that. And I'm not saying that has to happen, but that's sort of how I look at their win total. I'm not somebody who's ever comfortable betting over 11.5 wins for anybody, just with an injury or whatever, the randomness of the sport. What do you think of the AFC East, their number, et cetera?
I agree with everything you said, all of it. Could they win 12 games? Of course. Would I ever bet it? No. It does not leave you a lot of margin for error. I also think the division is terrible outside of Buffalo. And I said this when even before the Patriots hired Mike Vrabel, when we felt like it was going to happen. New England's going to be the second best team in the division this year. The Jets are in a huge rebuild. Justin Fields stinks. He's bad. They're going to be bad. The Jets are not going to be good. I think the Dolphins made a massive mistake not firing Mike McDaniel and Chris Greer this offseason. A team with no identity, that's not physical, that can't beat good teams and can't play in cold weather. And the offense got figured out last year to the point that Jalen Waddle's not even involved. And Tyreek Hill's unhappy. I think they're going to stink. So if the Patriots are going to be the second best team in the division, and for what it's worth, I think Drake May is awesome. Like, that roster isn't even close to contending with the likes of Buffalo. So I think it's extremely likely, pending Josh Allen's health, right, that the Bills will win the AFC East again. Like, could they go 13-4? Absolutely. They will be a playoff team. Allen will be in contention for MVP. But I think you guys know my opinion on this. And I'm not a troll saying this. This is my objective opinion. I tell it like it is. I don't think the Bills will ever win with Sean McDermott as the coach. In the history of this league, we have never seen, and the same goes, by the way, for John Harbaugh and Lamar Jackson, same draft. We have never seen quarterback-coach pairings together for this long that haven't won yet that end up winning a Super Bowl. Like, how many times, and I know, like, Bills fans don't want to hear this, but, like, this is the truth. How many times do you have to get your brains beaten in by the Kansas City Chiefs before you say, let's try something different? And you're never going to fire the quarterback because he's one of the best players in the league. I think it is a huge mistake for the Bills to continue on with Sean McDermott. I wish he were the coach of my favorite team, the Giants. He's not a bad coach, just that, like, the expiration date has long since been hit here in my estimation. So, like, congratulations to the Bills on their 12-5, 11-6, 13-4 regular season and playoff appearance, and see you in January for the next playoff meltdown. And I don't say that with glee. I just think that's what's going to happen.
Well, as you know, you haven't been wrong yet.
You've got history on your side. There's no question about that.
I saw you all year be like, yeah, I don't care. Chiefs, I don't care. And that's what happened. Nick.
Well, it was great up until the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
So.
No. At least in terms of the AFC. Nick, I know you got to run. Your show's coming up. Thanks for your time today.
You got it. Wishing you guys and all your great listeners minimal sweats, winning bets, the absolute very best of luck. Say hi to my guy, Sam BP, for me.
Okay, very good. We will. Thanks, Nick. Nick Costos, You Better You Bet, which is coming up at 4. And he and Sam, I don't know if it's like always, but we're together on Sundays during the football season co-hosting. Chris Trapasso coming up at 4. More on the draft. We'll talk about Malachi Starks.
More?
Can you stand it?
There's more?
Don't answer out loud. Can you stand it? Mike Schopp and the Bulldog here. Christian Benford also next hour. This is WGR. Sorry, I had to send the second text. You send a text, but it needs a second part.
Sure.
I couldn't afford the 3-minute break there might have been in between those two texts. Malachi Starks, safety out of Georgia. He's the newest name. Maybe he should have been on our list yesterday of the most likely candidates to be a Bill. I'll read you from Sigmund Bloom on Starks.
Okay.
Sigmund does an excellent, kind of legendary pre-draft Bloom 100. He ranks the top 100 prospects, including defensive players for fantasy. I mean, there are fantasy leagues that have defense. Quote, Starks will probably go off the board in the top 50 and be tabbed to start early in his career, but his best contributions likely will come in coverage. He's a willing run defender, but not that physical, so he should be more impactful playing in the back of the defense. I'll skip the fantasy line. From Dane Brugler, another legendary analyst here.
The Beast.
The Beast. Stark's family was homeless at times in his childhood, and he wears the number of his cousin Keon, who died when he was 7 in a murder-suicide committed by Keon's father. That is the background, life, and as a football player from Sigmund Bloom and Dane Brugler on Malachi Starks. By the way, he ranks 94th on Sigmund's top 100. 95th is Mason Graham.
Holy cow.
But that's fantasy, right? That's fantasy. Okay, he's defensive tackle.
Yeah, okay.
Settle down, Mike.
Yeah, right.
97th is Jade Barron.
Okay.
Another name.
The corner that's supposed to go, it could be the first corner depending on what's going on with Will Johnson, because that's another one that the injury stuff is just really, it's been percolating. He missed time during the season. So that's always been there with him, but it feels like it's gaining steam the last couple days, I think, in an effort to probably, hopefully, for some teams, push him down.
Could be ours.
To where they can get him. Could be ours even, yeah. But, yeah, Barron, I think, could be the first corner if that happens with Johnson. If not, probably the second. Beyond Hunter, okay? Would like leave him out of it. Yeah, the Starks idea, okay.
Fine.
I want another safety. Like if I'm gonna go safety, I want the other guy, and I might not be able to get my hands on the other guy because the other guy might go, I don't know, 15th or something. So that's Emin Worry from South Carolina, and Starks just feels to me more like the safeties the Bills have had, which have been very good. But like Emin Worry is just an outside of the box sort of freak show, and that's why I dig that idea. I don't need a safety, but I could use a freakazoid on defense. Starks probably will be a good NFL safety for a lot of years, but he's not, to me, somebody that's going to change your defense.
Seems like somebody we should ask Chris Trapasso about, CBS Sports analyst. We'll have Chris on after the update. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog here, WGR.
Today until the NFL Draft, Howard Simon and Joe Marino have continued to put up draft profiles at our website, WGR550.com. The latest position to get an in-depth look is wide receivers, with TCU's Jack Besh and Iowa State's Jaden Higgins, among others, being highlighted. Our coverage of the 2025 NFL Draft right here on WGR is presented by Figo Car and Joyce, your border attorneys, and brought to you by New York's only outlet liquor. When you need to stock up, it's the place to buy a case. What's your outlet? By Northtown Automotive Group, Northtown Automotive, official automotive dealer of the Buffalo Bills, and by Quilted Squirrel. Great websites, more leads, real growth for your business. Learn more at tqsmarketing.com. Our coverage is going to start tomorrow night at 7 p.m. with Nate Geary, Derek Kramer, and myself having you covered throughout round one in Green Bay. Sal Capaccio also going to join us throughout the evening. Do stay tuned. Sal will join today's show at 5 p.m. The Saints are picking up the fifth-year option on wide receiver Chris Olave. They're not doing, though, so for offensive tackle Trevor Penning. And the 2025 Hall of Fame game will be between Detroit and the LA Chargers. That game will be held on July 31st. Then some playoff action tonight. 3 games in the NHL. Washington hosts Montreal. Capitals looking to take a 2-0 series lead at 7. Game 3 for Stars Avalanche. That series is all tied up. It's going to get going at 9:30. Then at 10, Game 2 of Oilers Kings. And then we also have 3 games in the NBA. 7 p.m. sees Boston hosting Orlando. Jason Tatum is a game-time decision due to a wrist injury for Boston. 7:30, Cavs have the Heat in town. Then at 9:30, the Rockets take on the Golden State Warriors. That's Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update. Paddock Chevrolet celebrating 90 years of being your hometown dealership. I'm Zach Jones for WGR Sports Radio 550.
It's Mike Schopp and the Bulldog.
I got a speeding ticket in the mail yesterday.
In the mail?
Yeah. I think I'm going to just ignore it.
It's Mike Schopp
Where was this?
Spain.
and the Bulldog.
I think if I just lay low, I think I'll get away with it.
Not mention it on the air?
Definitely don't want to talk about it on the air.
It's Mike Schopp and the Bulldog
I like the sound of this more and more as we go. I'm an outlaw.
on WGR Sports Radio 550.
Here we go. One more sleep until the draft. I'm guessing our guest could use one more sleep. Chris Trapasso.
Or some sleep.
Any sleep? Half a sleep?
Yes.
Right, there he is.
Yes to all the above.
Chris Trapasso, CBS Sports, joins us now. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog via the West Her hotline. What's today like for you?
I kind of feel this weird calm sensation where I've essentially turned everything in, so to speak, and I'm just trying not to be anxious like I used to be, like in my early 20s, and just because I know that from Thursday all the way through Saturday, it's really a marathon, I'm going to be staring at a bright screen for far too long as to what humans are supposed to be staring at a screen for.
Is there pressure, Chris? Like, as mock drafts every week, and as an analyst, I'm sure you, like a lot of analysts, have to deal with the fan that's like, yeah, nice call, buddy, right?
Sure,
that kind of thing. Is there pressure that you feel to, mostly at least be right?
Well, I mean, for mock drafts, I feel like for as much as the entire American internet loves them, people know at this point that they're pretty much not going to be right at all by even Daniel Jeremiah and Mel Kiper and the super plugged-in analysts. So from that perspective, I don't feel pressure, but not to go back down in the draft industry well that Bulldog and I went down a few weeks ago to bore everyone. But for me, like, if a prospect that I love, like, okay, I have James Pierce as my number 1 overall player. If he's not picked tomorrow and he's a second-round pick, I'm sure I will get someone that's saying, oh, man, you really missed that one. That's not what I'm after. Like I said with Bulldog, the draft is not the finish line. Let's talk in 3 years if James Pierce is the best edge rusher from this class, or if he's not, then you can come at me and say you were right or you were wrong. So in terms of what I care about the most, the evaluations, there's not a ton of pressure, although I do realize that if I love, say, Elijah Badger, who I do love from Florida, and he's like a 7th-round pick, the chances of him getting the opportunities and becoming a really good player are reasonably slim. So I'll pay attention, but in terms of real-time, short-term pressure that I didn't get specific players right in my evals that go in the first or the second round, so to speak, I don't really feel that until, down the road over the next couple of years.
All right.
Does that make sense?
Yes. Top of the draft, I mean, it's minus 20,000. It's done. As Nick Kostos put it with us earlier, Cam Ward will be the first pick. Is it your opinion? In 2024, he would have been the quarterback what? I see quarterback 7, based on we had the 6 QBs go in the first round last year. What would you say?
I wrote an article about this, I think, in late March, and I literally just compared my grades for those quarterbacks last year and this year in my scouting grade books that I have. And he was, I believe, the 6th quarterback. I think I liked him a slightly more. I forgot if it was over Michael Penix or J.J. McCarthy, but one of those two, or Bo Nix, I think it was. Mm-hmm. And then he was 6th, Bo Nix was 7th, and Shedeur Sanders was 8th. So he is not, like, I've seen some things recently that, oh, why is he not getting more hype? This is the first overall pick. We've done him a disservice. I think it's because he's going to the Titans, which would be, to me, in contention for the least, like, appealing, storyline creating franchise in the NFL, and the fact that he just frankly is not a high caliber quarterback prospect like we've had for much of all of the 2020s up to this point.
Yeah. What do you make of Shug? And maybe mostly I'm curious about your opinion about him being 26 by the time opening day rolls around. Like, how much of a thing is that, if it's a thing at all?
I really don't like that. And I think I'm not going to speak for other analysts, but I would assume that a lot of other analysts that you would have on would say, hey, look, like, the NFL doesn't care anymore. Like, Jaden Daniels was older, Bo Nix was older, the experience matters. This is not 23. This is 26. He's older than, like, 10 starting quarterbacks in the NFL. And you put Brock Purdy back on Iowa State this past season, like, it would be a complete – and he's not even 26 years old. It wouldn't be shocking if Brock Purdy had a great season. And I think Shuck has – the arm talent at times, and he's a pretty good athlete, but there are also some woeful misses where you're like, where was he throwing that ball? I'm not quite sure. And that he trusts his ability to drop it down sidearm or throw it fading away, where he's not that Josh Allen or Matthew Stafford or Patrick Mahomes type talent. So I think he really is one, like we all agree, at the quarterback spot. In the right scenario, I think Tyler Shuck could be a decent starter, but I would be surprised that if he becomes a top 10 to top 12 quarterback in this league, because it's hard for me to draw these strong conclusions about him that he's a great quarterback when he was 25 years old playing against 21, 22, and 23-year-olds in college.
I can't find an analyst who likes him, but analysts seem to believe that the league does. Which is, as you know well, that's two different things. What I
right.
Just to your earlier point. So it sounds like there's a real chance he could go even, like, I don't know, late first, but early second. But everybody I listen to is like, I don't get it with him. So
me neither.
I'm sure it's not everybody. With Chris Trapasso, Ashton Genty. Speaking of the odds, mentioning Ward's line, and there's no point in having one for him. Genty is now minus 200 to be pick 5. What do you think? What do you think is happening with that? Is Jacksonville really working at trying to get somebody to trade up, maybe for him? I mean, I could see it happening.
Yeah. So I'll say this about those odds and that this building momentum over the last few days for Genty to go 5. It's either it's one of two things. They have a 34-year-old GM, James Gladstone, who worked in close contact with Les Snead and Sean McVay in LA with the Rams. And they, for as much as they were trading away first rounders to get Jalen Ramsey and Odell Beckham and Matthew Stafford en route to that Super Bowl, they have always been a really good drafting team later in the draft with Kobe Turner, Cooper Kupp, guys like that. So one of two things. Either what you hinted at, that James Gladstone is this super progressive young GM that's smart and is saying, we're going to really kind of leave some tea leaves that will say, hey, we're going to pick Ashton Genty, so a team has to trade with us and offer us something insane to get a running back inside the top 5. Or if I'm a Jaguars fan, I'm going to be a little bit concerned that my team's new young GM is making his first pick at the running back position inside the top 5, which is not going to be cheap. Those fully guaranteed rookie deals, we always hear, quarterbacks on a rookie deal so cheap. Ashton Genty, if he's the 5th overall pick, is going to be one of the highest paid running backs in the NFL right away. And you could say that that's good. That's when they should get their most money because they're the most fresh. But in a very loaded running back class on a team that I think we can all agree needs a lot more than just a good running back to be maybe more than a contender in the AFC South, but to be, again, a legitimate playoff team in the AFC like they were a few years ago, they need a lot more than just Ashton Genty. So that is probably the most fascinating turning point as we are sitting, 1 day away from the draft. Was this all smoke, or is this new GM going to say, we're going to plant our flag with this new regime, new head coach, offensive-minded guy with a running back at number 5?
There's so much to process there, and most of it breaks my brain. It doesn't take much, admittedly, at this point in my life, but the idea of drafting a running back in the first round, oh my God, never do it. Trading up to draft a running back in the first round, oh my God. Trading into the top 5 to draft a running back, there's smoke coming out of my ears. I don't know what I would do if my team were doing that. And that's no reflection on the talent of the kid. The kid looks like he's going to be dynamite. But holy cow.
Yeah, I think the draft, and like I've said this on this show, on a lot of other podcasts that I've been on, radio shows, that I'm super excited about tomorrow. I love that the first round has become this cultural event in this country because how big the NFL has gotten, but that we have to remember the second and third round and fourth round are still really, really important. And you're right, Ashton Genty's amazing. He is one of the blue chip prospects in the class that doesn't have very many, and I think that could be maybe the element that's creating this buzz for him. But you have to weigh and value. All right, do we want Ashton Genty, after trading up, losing draft capital, paying him one of the highest or most lucrative contracts at the running back position at number 5 overall? Or do we want Travion Henderson for no extra picks and we pay him significantly less as a second or a third rounder? I think when you're looking at it from that perspective, it seems very simple to look at it that way. But I think that's what the best GMs, maybe not when it's a quarterback because you just get your guy, you don't care how you get him, but at the running back position, I think that's more important than just landing the best overall player.
So I referenced earlier, Chris, Mike Renner, who's now with CBS like yourself.
Yes.
On a podcast, he had the Bills in a mock draft that established the run, and he came to his pick at pick 30, and he kind of went, well, I should pick a corner. And he, in saying that, said something about that the difference in hit rate or just what is going to happen here at corner from pick 30 to even the third round is not historically much. So I'd rather pick one later. So that is true. I wanted to ask you about that because I hadn't heard that take before. But is that, do you think maybe how the Bills would see it? Do the Bills also sort of shrug their shoulders at pick 30? Well, we have to pick the corner now because of not having a third or whatever other reasons they would have, but maybe not really want to.
I think Mike's insight there is sound, that there isn't a big drop-off if you look at, I don't even know what you want to go by, Pro Bowl distinctions or making an all-pro team.
Second contracts,
contracts, whatever it is. Yeah. But, yes, between, the bottom fourth of round 1 and the early stages of round, or mid portions of round 3, not a big difference in terms of just year to year, the talent, hitting any of those thresholds at corner. For me, though, I think because of what happened with Kaiir Elam, I would think that Brandon Beane and the entire Bills front office, not comparing player to player, but that's exactly what got them into trouble in 2022, where they're oh man, Kaiir Elam's our only first-round cornerback left. We got to trade up to get him. And it ultimately didn't work out. And they went into that draft fully telegraphing, we need a corner. And what happened? The Chiefs picked Trent McDuffie right in front of the Bills, and we know how that couldn't have turned out any worse for Buffalo. I think the signings of Dane Jackson and Trey White, it doesn't change things drastically, but to me it was a little bit of a signal that the Bills don't want to feel like what you just mentioned. Oh, okay, let's just pick a corner. He's really a second-rounder for us, but we're close to the second round anyway. To me, I think it has opened the door for the Bills to not do that and potentially be open to trading down if, Kenneth Grant is gone and Derek Harmon is gone and Nick Emmanwori's gone and the corners that they like are gone, that the Bills won't feel as forced into that cornerback pick. And like Mike was hinting at, just pick one at 56 or at 62. There's probably players that the Bills like there and have valued at those correct positions as opposed to picking their, number 45 overall player at 30 overall.
I don't want to spend a lot of time on this, but I'm wondering if you are prepared to answer whether or not corner stands out in that way, or is that pretty common across many position groups, that 30 into the 60s is kind of like, there's not that much difference?
Yeah, I can't say that I know offhand for every position. I think quarterback, that's not true. Like first-round quarterbacks are and that's kind of obvious that there's a huge drop-off in day 2 and obviously into like day 3 when you're looking at like quarterback numbers. But I know that for some other premium positions like wide receiver and edge rusher, very, very similar. I'm not sure about defensive tackle, but I did look into that recently as well, and those are spots where, there's a few like big time, like the TJ Watts that were late first rounders that are really good players, but there's also a bunch at wide receiver and an edge who are still really good and were second and third round picks. So I don't think there's a huge drop off.
We're seeming to have a bit of a Malachi Starks day today, the first in this draft cycle, Chris. His name is popping up lots of places. Zach just texted me that Mike Renner, who's come up a few times already, and Connor Rogers did a thing, and the Starks is there. And there's a couple other spots where you're seeing that name pop up, and you know how I feel about Emin Worry. Like that's my dream scenario. Starks to me is more like he's more like a regular safety, which doesn't have to be bad, but like he's not a freak show like Emin Worry. But what do you think of Malachi Starks?
So on film, I think he is definitely first round caliber, and not like late first. I think he's a top 15 to 20 talent in the class. And you can watch the pro day or the combine workout, and everyone's raving, "Oh, look at how smooth!" But there's really no way to judge if those descriptors are right. At the Georgia Pro Day, and even at the combine, his workout paled in comparison to Nick Emanwari. And although he has good size, he's not someone with freaky long arms, or he's not super big. So I agree with you. I think that would be a very safe selection because coming from Kirby Smart's defense at Georgia, very complicated, had a lot of responsibilities. I think Sean McDermott would love him on the defense, and it probably would represent or could represent just best player available. But I'm mostly agreeing with you, Bulldog, in that I would be like, okay, good pick, but this is not someone that I think is, suddenly an all-pro right away. Then again, the Bills got the most out of their safeties in the past, Jordan Poyer and Micah Hyde, and turned them into all-pros.
So having said all this about the cornerback position and this player, Starks, here it is the day before. What's your guess for Buffalo?
I think it's Trey Amos, and it's funny that I'm saying a corner after kind of saying that it would probably be smarter to wait, but I think just in terms of what would happen, I would be very surprised if Kenneth Grant is just sitting there at 30 because there are not many 6'3", 330-pounders who are 21 years old that played as well as he did at a big-time school. So if he's there, I think the Bills would call the pick in immediately. Sean McDermott loves defensive linemen. They rotate, all that. I think Trey Amos, everyone kind of feels similarly to how they feel about Malachi Starks in that really good player across the board. Is there anything that you are emphatically checking on his draft resume? You're like, oh, my God, Trey Amos is amazing at. No, I don't think there's really any of those, but there's not really liabilities to his game as well. I've said maybe not perfectly a stylistic match to Tre'Davious White, but very similar in Trey White, who was the 27th pick in 2017, that everyone's like, yeah, good player. And the Bills got an all-pro honor out of Trey White, and he was one of the top probably 7 to 10 corners in the NFL during his prime. So I think no trading up. They wouldn't have to do that, and he'll probably be there. I'm going to go Trey Amos with my final selection for the Bills right one day before the draft.
I like it because I said this yesterday, and this is not scientific, Chris. Maybe you would know way better than I would. Amos, if you see him in the first round in these mocks, it's the Bills. And I feel like I never see him anywhere else. Mm-hmm. So, like, that, it feels like...
Is that good or bad?
Yeah, right. I wonder. But I feel like it's a position of need. He's got size and all the stuff, played in the big conference, right? There's a lot to like there, and it just feels to me like if he's there, they'll pick him, and I would be kind of shocked if he's not there, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I would be a little bit surprised too, and I don't know if I've written more mock drafts or you've read more mock drafts, but I will say that I agree with you there too, that you mostly see Trey Amos just to the Bills and not really at any other landing spot. I think the fact that he's a little bit older, too. The Bills seem to like that. I mean, outside of Greg Rousseau, Ed Oliver, a lot of their early-round picks were on the older side. They like that experience. He transferred into the SEC, and the bright lights weren't too big for him. I kind of feel similarly to the fact that they like that about Osiris Torrance in the second round of 2023. So Amos would be like, I'm sure they're going to call teams. They might have trade parameters set, moving up, moving back if certain guys are there. But as they see some of these marquee names at D-tackle and at corner go off the board, maybe even safety with Eman Worry, I just think that Amos is going to be there, and they're going to be like, all right, this might be one of our last first-round grades, and it will be one of the last picks in the actual first round.
Is Jahdae Barron taken in this scenario?
Yes, and I am not a fan of Jahdae Barron where he's going to be picked. So that's
okay.
Yeah, and it feels like his hype is probably going to be it's going to far exceed where the Bills are picking at 30, which I might be on an island with this. I think that would be a good thing for the Bills to stay away from Jahdae Barron.
Are you buying the Will Johnson injury concerns, or do you think that's smoke here a day before the draft, teams hoping that maybe he will fall, deep into the teens, maybe even the 20s?
I think mostly smoke, but like you just mentioned, I don't think that there are no teams that are concerned about it, but I think if Will Johnson either had stayed fully healthy or was injured earlier in the season and got to work out at the combine, there would be a lot of buzz for him in the top 10. So if he falls a little bit to the Cardinals at 16, something like that, I don't think that would be a precipitous fall for him. Mm-hmm. Maybe he gets into the 20s, but I think in general, the fact that he was starting as a freshman, making plays as a freshman, and was just a really good player for 3 seasons at Michigan before he got hurt. I would be stunned if he's available much beyond the early 20s in this draft.
Chris, thanks again for all your time this draft season. Appreciate that. We'll do it once more next week.
Sure. I love that. Thanks, guys.
Enjoy tomorrow and the weekend, bud. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks.
Chris Trapasso, CBS Sports. Next, Bills cornerback Christian Benford, who wrote a children's book. We'll talk to him about that and his new contract and what his draft day was like, if we have time for all that and maybe more. Sal Capaccio at 5, Mike Schopp and the Bulldog, WGR.
T-minus one more day until the NFL draft. Howard Simon and Joe Marino continue to put up draft profiles up at our website, WGR550.com. And the latest position to get a look is the wide receivers, with TCU's Jack Besh and Iowa State's Jaden Higgins, among others, being highlighted. And our coverage of the 2025 NFL draft on WGR is presented by Figo Car & Joyce, your border attorneys, and brought to you by New York's only outlet liquor. When you need to stock up, it's the place to buy a case. What's your outlet? By Northtown Automotive Group, Northtown Automotive, official automotive dealer of the Buffalo Bills, and by Quilted Squirrel. Great websites, more leads, real growth for your business. Learn more at tqsmarketing.com. We also have the Bisons in action today. They're at home. They have a single admission doubleheader versus Rochester. That's starting at 4:30. You can listen to that game over on our sister station, the Bet 1520. That's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Headlines. Paddock Chevrolet celebrating 90 years of being your hometown dealership. I'm Zach Jones for WGR Sports Radio 550.
Rodgers in the shotgun on 3rd and 19. Back to pass. Has time. Looking. Throws deep over the middle. Picked off by Christian Benford. Coming the other way. 35. 40. To the near sideline. 45. And forced out of bounds at the 47-yard line. Rodgers throws late over the middle and pays for it.
Zach just mentioned Bison starting now. Doubleheader. 5-14. But Rochester, who they're playing, is worse. 5-15, and Rochester won last night.
That's one worse.
One half worse. Yeah.
Oh, right. Yeah. Sorry.
Bison's 1-5 when they don't make an error. So defense doesn't seem to be the problem.
Defense does not win AAA championships.
It's the regular season, Bulldog.
Maybe telling me here.
It's the regular season. I don't know.
Right.
We're expecting a call from Christian Benford here shortly. Sal coming up at 5. Speaking of baseball, sort of, Micah Hyde's softball game is set for a week from Sunday, May 4th. There was a media promotion today for it. And I read on the press release that, maybe you knew this, Josh Allen has won the home run derby that they have at this thing 3 times. Guy might be an athlete.
Yeah, I think that's pretty likely. Yeah, he's got a very natural swing. I've seen him hit. I haven't been to that event, but I've seen highlights of him swinging the bat, and it looks very natural. I've seen him swing a golf club. It looks very natural, and obviously we've watched him do almost superhuman things on the football field. So yeah, I think he's got it. Whatever it is, he's got it.
I'm going to indulge myself by sharing this. My close friend, has a daughter who goes to Nichols, and she plays on the golf team. We were talking about that at home. Like, I didn't even really know that golf was ever a part of her her scene, but she's on the golf team. And my wife mentioned this to my daughter, who was like, "Huh," because she doesn't always just like whatever she's doing. She sort of fights. So I found out our secret. I found out that that day she grabbed a driver out of my bag.
All right.
And just started whacking balls around. So I was excited about that.
Good for her to start with the biggest club too.
Right.
Just go right to the top.
Right.
I don't see if I can do this thing.
Let me pick the giant one.
Right.
And so that's cool. And the Easter Bunny brought a bucket of foam golf balls.
All right.
To her. So
maybe a new project.
I would love to think so.
On there. I would love to hear that.
As we hope for Christian Benford to join us here in the near future, do you have? Are you going in with the Starks stuff? Are we close enough to it that he would be your guess?
I still think Amos was the first name out of my mouth yesterday when you opened up yesterday's show with make a list of 5. You had a list of 10. We never really. I didn't exactly. Maybe I'll do that on Twitter tonight or tomorrow before the draft starts. 5 most likely candidates. I don't know how much fun that is, but I might enjoy it.
You can also do it tomorrow.
Right. Amos is the first name that came to my mind, and I made the point then that I made with Chris while we were talking last segment about how I never see him anywhere else. Like if he's in the first round, it's the Bills. And I don't know, that could be just people throwing darts. It also could be, connecting dots. The Bills need a corner. Here's a guy that fits. He's good in zone. Okay, it all makes sense. I just think the need is pretty strong. The safety position I've always liked as a sneaky need, but I like it more when you're talking about Emanwuri and not Starks. Like I just feel like Starks could end up being a very good player, but like if I'm going to take safety there in spite of these other needs I have, then I kind of want it to be someone who has the potential to be like a real difference maker rather than just hold the position down, And that's what Emanwuri to me represents somewhat, and that's why I'm intrigued by that. So I'm not like eager for the other safety that's been getting attention in the first round, but it's noticeable today. There's a lot of it today that seems to be making the rounds. Starks.
Joining us now on the West Her Hotline is author and, by the way, excellent Bills cornerback Christian Benford. Christian, Mike and Chris here. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Please tell us about your venture, Stylish Safari. We'd love to hear about what it is, how it came to be, who had the idea, the whole thing.
It was more so my idea. I just always wanted to write a kid's book and impact the youth as best as possible. So that was just a little bit of the idea for it. But mainly, it was my sister kind of helping me too, but especially with the artwork, especially with some of the artwork.
So it's
it was just an idea to help the kids as best way as possible to impact them in the way for if they were visual learners and to just be themselves.
I really like there's a line in the press release that we were sent, Christian, about the book, and the quote from you, I want to read it for our audience and then ask you about it. The quote says, "I've always believed in being true to who you are on the field, in the community, and now on the page. Stylish Safari is a love letter to kids everywhere who might feel a little different. It's a reminder that being kind, confident, and creative is something to wear with pride." Is there something in your experience, your childhood, even as a teenager, that sort of made you want to get that point across to little kids?
Yeah, when I was younger, I was big into Power Rangers. So I was always wearing like some type of Power Ranger outfit or some sort like that. And I just rocked it with all confidence and not caring what nobody else had to say. And so my sisters, like, they had their style.
Your recording has reached the maximum length. To replay your message, press 1.
We got to take a minute here. I don't know. I'll slip in while we hopefully get that rectified, that there's a running back prospect named Woody Marks this year, USC, I think. And his given name isn't Woody, it's a nickname, and he has the nickname because he loved Toy Story. Christian mentioning Power Rangers. Right. I wanted to ask Benford, was that Halloween every year, Power Rangers? Right. But this Woody Marks, I read from Brugler, wore Woody for Halloween 7 years in a row. I don't think I ever went back-to-back on any costume.
That is leaning into it.
Even with Colonel Sanders as an adult.
Yeah.
I mean, I was literally begged to repeat it. And I'm like, no, you can't wear the same Halloween costume 2 years in a row. Maybe as a kid.
If I ever went back-to-back, it was because I didn't have a better idea. As a kid. Like, just give me the sheet. I'll cut some holes in it. I'm a ghost again.
I'm a hockey player.
Can I have some Mars bars, please? Like, yeah, right. I definitely had a hockey player more than once. Because, I had the gear. I just put the helmet on. I don't think I went out in skates. That would have been weird. But the rest of the gear, yeah.
All right, Christian, you were talking about Power Rangers there when we lost you. that was your thing.
Yeah, that was me. That was just something I was big into. And I also was big into, like, wearing my football jersey. I don't know what it was, but I just love rocking that stuff at school. And just having pride and confidence in myself. And again, my sisters had unique styles. They was big into art. They was artists themselves. So having that type of culture kind of stagnated my life as well on just being you and being confident with and being yourself and loving yourself and not trying to be like what you see on social media or one like this world, as Jesus Christ, my Lord and Savior, will say. And because all that stuff would diminish who you are, it would take your eyes away from who you truly are, or how God truly created you, the beautiful version of yourself.
Very nice. Stylish Safari, available in bookstores, on Amazon, which is Christian Benford's new children's book, as it's also written in the press release. A must-read for children 5 to 8. That's the
wheelhouse. All right.
Demo, so to speak. Christian, you recently did a press conference after you got your new contract, and congratulations on that. And you talked in sort of similar big terms as we're kind of hearing now, your perspective on what it means to your life and your family. And I just want, has your life changed yet? I mean, it's still very recent and we're not into the next season yet. You haven't played on this contract yet. But has there already been, benefits, effects from this contract for you?
Just the fact that I understand that God has blessed me, and I understand that, like, the work that I put in and staying true to what God says and being the man that God will come to fruition. Staying fruitful and spreading good fruit to others, planting good seeds into others and letting that seed sprout to good fruit, and just continuously doing God work, and it will show. It will come back to you in the lump sum. And it was more so, rather than like an outward appreciation, it was an inward appreciation. Mm-hmm. That what I'm doing isn't for nothing. I know a lot of us out here in this world, we do so much. And sometimes I feel like we do so much and it's for nothing. And that could really diminish your confidence in what you do. And just that contract kind of just boosted, like, my heart. Obviously, my heart was strong for my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, but that kind of, like, helped me some more to solidify, like, I'm always a true believer, but it just gave me more. My shoulders dropped some. My shoulders were high some, stress, worry, and my shoulders dropped some. I understand I could do a lot with this, help make a legacy for my kids and family for the future to come.
There is ChristianBenford.com, by the way, for more on your story and your book.
It is draft weekend here. The first round is tomorrow, and then, of course, we've got Friday and Saturday. Can you take us back to what that was like for you? You had to wait until the 6th round on Saturday. Was that how challenging, if it was challenging, or were you kind of expecting to have to wait until later into Saturday to be chosen? Or was each round and each corner that got picked sort of like oh, man, we're still sitting here?
Yeah, I honestly just prayed. Like, I try not to get my hopes too high of whatever round I'm going to get drafted, and I just accept whatever is presented on my plate and just do whatever I can do with it. So I was more so appreciative of when I got drafted. I didn't have no hopes or ideas. It was coaches telling me when I would get drafted, X, Y, Z, but it's not set in stone. So I try not to hang my hat on that too much. I just try to go through my day and just accepting whatever God gives me whenever He gives it to me. And for, like, the draft, wherever I get drafted or not, whatever happens, happens. But make the best of what I have and make the best of whatever I was given.
Will you follow the draft this weekend? Do you love the draft, or is it like just more kind of whatever? How much interest do you have in what happens this weekend?
I ain't gonna lie to you. I'll probably be doing something with my family. Mm-hmm. Spend time. Had to go home for like something, so I'll probably be home just chilling with my family, make sure spend as much time as possible. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, just make sure you know Trey White is on the team. Josh Allen said this week he did not know that Trey White was back. I'm guessing that you did know that.
Yeah, I was on the phone right before it happened.
All right.
After
you were like the first to know. You were maybe the first to know.
Yeah, I don't know about the first, but
very good.
Probably didn't at the beginning.
Well, that's a pretty cool deal for him to come back where it all started for him, right?
Yeah, it is. It's pretty cool to see his journey and to see his character development. To see him back in the facility is pretty awesome.
Christian, thanks for today. Enjoy the rest of your off season, and we'll talk about the book a couple more times here throughout the show.
All right, appreciate it. Yep, you can get it at christianbenford.com, and it's all over. And love to come out, read to the kids, anything.
All right,
you guys.
Thank you, Christian. Christian Benford on the West Shore Hotline. Glad we're able to make that work. Stylish Safari Bulldog. Check it out.
I love that quote that I read to the audience and to him. I think that's such an important message for kids. So good for him.
Mike Schopp and the Bulldog here. Sal at 5. Stay with us. This is WGR. Audible just sent me my stats, my year of listening stats, which I don't want to look at this.
Okay, then don't.
Because
no, you definitely should. And talk about it on the air.
What I do is I buy a book. Like I get every couple of months, I subscribe to it. I buy a book, and then I listen to the book in my car, driving back and forth from work and places. And then when I go to bed, I listen to one that I've already, quote, read.
Okay.
And set it to a sleep timer. So it's gonna tell me that I've listened to Reclaiming History by Bugliosi 70 times since New Year's.
But really, you're just using it as a sleep aid.
I'm using it as a sleep aid. Right. I want that on the record.
Right.
It's one thing for my Spotify stats to just be, 92% of your listening was Radiohead. Like, I own that. That's not when I'm falling asleep.
Right.
But,
right.
These books, it's like these 10 books, and when I get done, I go back to them and just, it really comes down to the voice more than the book.
Right.
It comes down to the voice. My guy Leon Nafok, I don't know what his stats look like, but I'm half of his stats. I got to be half
that
of
much?
his.
Yeah.
He's big time, so I'm kidding, but all the time I'm listening to Fiasco or Slow Burn. I'm listening to Leon. Think Twice, Michael Jackson. But it's like when I go to bed and when I wake up, whatever. And now I'm sort of going back to bed too often, and like, oh my God, Leon's got to be making tons of money off me. Hopefully, he gets paid every time I do it.
Well, if it's like the music streaming, then it like 1/2 cent per listen or something, maybe, or a quarter.
Count it.
Yeah.
Good for Leon. I like him. He got famous, and I reached out to him, and he wouldn't have known me, but he asked me, like, what do you think of my voice? What you're in broadcasting. What can I do? And we talked. He was good. He got great. Like, he sort of slowed down and got a little deeper, I would say.
All right.
And he is big time in the history.
And you helped him along.
I don't know if I did, but we did have a conversation, which I love thinking about.
Maybe he ignored all the things you told him to do and did the opposite or something.
What do I sound like?
Like
I don't know.
Costanza over here, like the opposite.
What I have is I have the years. Like, I must be doing something because I have like 30 years of this now.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I helped him or not, but he doesn't need my help, I'm pretty sure. Sal Capaccio coming up next, as we are just over 24 hours away from round one. What are we? 27, to be exact. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog here, WGR.
T-minus 1 day away from the start of the NFL draft over in Green Bay. Howard Simon and Joe Marino continuing to put up draft profiles up at our website, WGR550.com. Wide receivers are the latest position to get an in-depth look. TCU's Jack Besh, Iowa State's Jaden Higgins, among others, are being highlighted. And our coverage of the 2025 NFL draft right here on WGR is presented by Fiegel Car and Joy Short Border Attorneys and brought to you by New York's only outlet liquor. When you need to stock up, it's the place to buy a case. What's your outlet? By Northtown Automotive Group. Northtown Automotive, the official automotive dealer of the Buffalo Bills, and by Quilted Squirrel. Great websites, more leads, real growth for your business. Learn more at tqsmarketing.com. Coverage is going to get going tomorrow at 7 p.m. with Nate Geary, Derek Kramer, and myself, having you covered throughout round one in Green Bay. Sal Capaccio also going to join us throughout the evening, and do stay tuned as Sal will join the show next. The Saints are picking up the fifth-year option for wide receiver Chris Olave. They are not doing that, though, for offensive tackle Trevor Penning, and we do have the opponents for the 2025 Hall of Fame game as Detroit will take on the Chargers. That game will be held on July 31st. And then playoff action tonight. 3 games in the NHL. Washington hosts Montreal. The Capitals are looking to take a 2-0 series lead at 7. Game 3 for Stars Avalanche. That series is tied up. It's going to get going at 9:30. Then at 10, Game 2 of Oilers Kings. And also 3 games in the NBA tonight. 7 p.m. sees Boston hosting Orlando. Jason Tatum, game time decision due to a wrist injury for Boston. 7:30, Cavs have the Heat in town. Then at 9:30, it's the Rockets taking on the Golden State Warriors. That's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update. Paddock Chevrolet celebrating 90 years of being your hometown dealership. I'm Zach Jones for WGR Sports Radio 550.
Closing in on the first round of the NFL draft. Man, what I don't even remember. Like every minute of every day seems like it's about the NFL draft. Even when I'm at home, that's what I'm thinking. That's what I'm thinking about. The podcast, everything.
Yeah.
Then next week comes, it's over.
Yeah, we're different that way.
Yeah. The show anyway, but then it ends and okay. Can we find a way to keep talking about the draft all the way until September? I'm not sure that's, not ill-advised. Sal Capaccio with us on the West Her Hotline. Sal, you ready for tomorrow night?
I think in some sense I am, yeah. I mean, I should be, but I think in other senses I'm never truly ready because there's so much I want to get to that I haven't got to yet, right? Like it keeps coming up. Oh, I should think about this or think about that. Can I put this out, put that out? There's just a lot of thoughts swirling around. So, yes, I'm ready. I'm prepared, but there's always so much more I want to get to or do before the draft starts.
That is true. I had a couple newer thoughts to ask you about. And one, please keep this answer short, if you would, because it's not that good of a question. But yesterday we were talking about logistics a lot, like how the Bills do it, everything.
The board, how they grade players,
how their drafting process works. I've wondered this before too. When we talk about GMs calling each other, do they literally call or do they text, or would that vary? Is there any reason to want to know that? I don't know. I found one.
I've thought about that myself. My guess is in this day and age, most text, and then they call when things need to be talked about. I think that would be the best way to put it.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Right, yeah, right. Like is this worth a call? Yeah, call me.
Right.
Yeah, right? Like, you're like that with friends too. Like the personal things going on, whatever. Like, hey, you know what? We should talk about this.
Right.
It doesn't happen that often. At least, if you're not facing too many crises, then, luckily maybe you're blessed. I don't know. But yeah, that makes sense. I would think texting the GM of the Steelers, like, hey, what do you think about 21?
Is this possible? Is this worth talking? Yeah, exactly right. I'm sure. I bet you're right.
I'm the same way with Yana, by the way. Like, we'll do this where because of this, we will text once in a while. Maybe you guys do this with your spouses, but we'll say, hey, can you give me a call when you get a minute? And then you're like, nothing's wrong, right? Because you want to make sure that they know,
right.
Yes, I want to talk to you, but don't worry, I'm not doing it because something is wrong.
Sal, my wife just got done this morning after working, I think it was 6 out of 7 nights in a row. She usually works 3 days a week, but just the way it worked out, I don't know, and she took on an extra day to cover something, I don't know. She's worked all these days in a row. So that means, really, I have barely seen her. I've seen her walk into our room in the morning, and I get up because I want her to go. I want to get up. She's going to go to sleep, and that's it. I come home, she's gone. Yesterday or the day before, right, after 4 of these days in a row where we literally had not seen one another nor had a conversation, she called me when I left here, and my first thought was, "Oh my God, what's wrong?" And she was like, "I just wanted to hear your voice." Like, well, that's nice.
I love it.
She doesn't know you have a show. She doesn't know she can actually hear it without calling you, but okay. I like it too. One more. In your opinion, Sal, with the Bills having traded down and out of the first round last year, would they do it again? Do you think they would look at it like every year is different? If this is the right move, it would just be cold and probably that would be optimal? Or do you think maybe Brandon Beane would be like not wanting to have that happen, where he'd trade down and out of the first round 2 years in a row?
I don't think it matters whatsoever. I think it all depends. Every year is different. I think what it does impact it is how each of your individual draft boards look, and if you would do that. For example, what I mean is this year they do have 2 seconds, right? So they just traded down last year. Maybe because they have 2 seconds already, trading down this year doesn't seem as feasible because you don't need that as much, But that is a totally separate point. So one could impact the other if the trade impacted it from one year to the next. I don't think it matters whatsoever. Trading up a couple of years in a row, trading down. I mean, look at the Rams. They would trade out of the first round every year, essentially, right? They don't care. Just like gonna just trade out of the first round and figure it out as you go. So I don't think it matters at all.
The thing about that, and this would take years to have come to fruition, but they, by doing that, earned a reputation for it. And they even flaunted it. And maybe Beane has gone in both directions. He's far from having that reputation. But that's the point, that you come to be known for it. And, what would our phone lines sound like if they did it again and the same thing happened with Worthy, whatever? Like, can we just pick somebody, please? Whatever. I don't know if you'd have to agree with that.
If they were to do it, someone's going to be mad because there's going to be someone's favorite idea is going to be there at 30 that they will be passing up. Mm-hmm. It could be mine, like Worthy was last year. That was my favorite idea, so I was extra hot about it, especially because it was the Chiefs. Like, oh, no, what are you doing? It's the dude. Yeah.
Well, in this draft, they're in a kind of a catbird seat if the quarterbacks fall.
Yeah.
And because you're hearing this in so many places now, Browns, Giants, Saints trading into the first round for that quarterback to get the extra year out of them. So probably, Sal, if he wanted to do it, he could.
No doubt. And I think people would be mad if it's the Chiefs again. Not even the player necessarily. It's like if they trade out and the Chiefs come up, people are going to go, oh, my God, I can't believe you did that again. So they certainly have that ability. I look at it this way, too. This is a bit of a chicken and egg for me, conundrum, whatever. So we know the Bills don't have 30 first-round grades. Brandon Beane said that yesterday. Brandon Beane was asked, how many first-round grades do you have? He said, where are we picking, 30? Not 30. He said it pretty definitively, right? So You can imagine he's got a lot less than 30 this year. We know that this draft, the consensus is maybe 15 first-round picks on some teams' boards. There was a report I read, the Bills have 12. That
Tony
came
Pauline
from a national
said
reporter.
That. Yeah,
Thank you. Tony Pauline said that. Thank you. I don't know if that's right. It could very well be right. So, that being said, I think you could look at it 2 ways. You could trade up to make sure you get a first-round value out of a first-round pick, or you could trade down because you don't want to pick a guy in the first round who you don't have a first-round grade on. I think you could look at it both ways.
And by the way, after yesterday's conversation about how they grade and rank players like for their own purposes, would you assume that the Travis Hunters of this draft are one of the 12? If they had 12 first-round grades, would it include players they have no chance at?
I think so. I just had this conversation on the phone with Josh Reed a little while ago, actually.
Appreciate the clarification.
Josh, you have some of those friends or family you actually do talk to more often. Josh and I actually talk quite a bit on the phone compared to texting. It's because we're driving a lot. It probably is why we do it. But either way, Josh called me a couple hours ago, and he's like, hey, I was listening back to Brandon. What'd you think about this? What'd you think about that? Because we're going to do I'm going to be on TV with them tonight on Channel 4. And we were talking about that specific answer, Mike, which is I asked Brandon Bean about that, which is, how when you grade them, if you have a grade as a first-round grade, but you don't need the guy, what does that become? And I'm still kind of scratching my head at what his answer was, because I don't know if he understood my question or if I didn't phrase it correctly.
Right.
But, yeah, I think, I'll say what I think after working through it with Josh. I think they would still have a first-round grade, yes, on Travis Hunter. I think that if they had a really, really great quarterback coming out, they would still have a first-round grade on him despite having Josh Allen on the roster. But as you said yesterday, I think, Bulldog, you put him in a different bucket, right? Even though you have a first-round grade, it's not a bucket of we want to make sure that we have a chance at this guy.
Right. Yeah, this came up briefly earlier on our show after we talked about this a little bit yesterday, and I thought, I'm not sure, because I had the same impression maybe that you had, and I'm glad you got clarification and sort of worked it out, because talking with you yesterday, I thought, they're only putting grades on guys for what they mean to the Bills. So if a quarterback that they have no interest in, does that mean they don't put a first-round grade on him? I'm not sure that's the way you should do it, I'm thinking to myself, because you still are trying to objectively grade the prospects and try to map out what's going to happen. And so it makes sense that they would still have a first-round grade on guys they have no interest in or no chance at picking. So I'm a little bit relieved here, I guess I would say.
Yeah, I think so, too. It could really throw off your grading system overall.
Right.
Sal Capaccio on the Western Hotline. Cornerbacks on the brain with the draft tomorrow night. It's a commonly mocked position for the Bills at pick 30. By the way, we had Christian Benford on the show half an hour ago. I wanted to bring this up. It's interesting how Amari Cooper and Rasul Douglas remain unsigned. Douglas, I suppose, could still come in over the top of Trey White somewhere, even probably not here anymore. But, man, think about, for all of last year, and we heard a lot about Trey White's struggles in L.A., and then he went to Baltimore. How shocking would it be to know that he would, I don't want to say replace Douglas, but that he might end up making more money this year in the NFL than Rasul Douglas. It's not a huge contract either, but that would have been something that would have seemed very surprising.
Agreed with you. By the way, we do know the details on Trey White's money, and it's $2.88 million on the salary cap. He still carries a dead cap charge of $4.13 million from the release last year. So, I wrote on Twitter earlier today, he's carrying, if you combine the two, a $7 million total cap charge. And some people pushed back and said that's kind of not a fair way to characterize. And I don't disagree. So I try to rephrase it. It's like it's two separate players,
right? One
dead money, one live money. It doesn't matter. You could call the first guy Joe Smith, not Tre'Davious White. You're counting $4 million for him, and then you're counting $2.88 for Trey. But yes, overall, those two things do count for the same player who you had on your team before. Now, that said, Mike, to the point of the number on the contract and the money he's making, it's only guaranteed $2.88 million, right? So he has a chance to earn these incentives back. I would, too, be surprised if you said to me 2 months ago that, A, Tre'Davious White would be re-signed by the Bills before they brought Rasul Douglas back. That's number one. And B, no matter where Rasul Douglas plays, it's going to be after Tre'Davious White's signed. And C, he's not going to make as much money. We still have yet that to be determined, obviously.
Mm-hmm. So corner is getting a lot of attention, obviously, at 30 for the Bills. You've said already you think defense with those first three picks. Today has felt very much to us in here. I don't want to speak for Mike, definitively on this, but for myself, today's like Malachi Stark's day. I feel, I've known of this player, of course. There's been drafts earlier, mock drafts I was looking at in different rankings where he was ahead of Nick Emenworry. And maybe the combine tilted that towards Emenworry because he's such an athletic freak. But either way, Malachi Stark's being mocked to the Bills just kind of started showing up today. I don't want to say I never saw it in the preceding 3 months, but it was rare. And today, it just feels like Malachi Stark's everywhere. What kind of job would that be by the Bills if they pulled the Georgia safety into the boat?
Okay, so let me say it this way, because I've thought about this today, and I want to make sure that I say this right, because I want people to understand. When I come on the radio, when I talk with you guys, when I tweet things, whatever it is, I think my number one job for listeners, for Buffalo Bills fans, should be to kind of tell you the how and the why for the Bills. Why are they doing something? What is my read of what they want to do? It's not, what would Sal Capaccio do and think about this guy? We can have those opinions, but it doesn't matter at the end. I can be wrong all day. I've been wrong on prospects. The Bills can't be wrong. And if they are, they have to pay for it, right? I mean, so that's where I try to get into more of the, do I see the Bills doing this? I love Malachi Starks. I think Malachi Starks is a fantastic football player. I still would be stunned if the Buffalo Bills drafted him in the first round, guys, because I know the way the Bills think. And the only way that they do this, to me, is if they really have lost total faith in their second-round pick of a year ago in Cole Bishop, or think that Taylor Rapp just can never be what he was pre a couple of injuries this season. And I don't see that happening. I think about what Sean McDermott said at the Combine about Taylor Rapp, how important he is, what he does to the defense. He is the Terrell Bernard of the secondary. He sets those guys. The way he talked about him, you're like, oh, my God, that guy's their number one safety. Now, he didn't say all of that about Cole Bishop. There's no doubt. In fact, Cole Bishop, it's been more like, hey, we're not going to hand him the job. Mm-hmm. He's got to come in and earn it. We like what we've seen, but he's still got to show it. I mean, that's not a glowing indictment, but it's a young player. I understand. But holy cow, they drafted him in the second round last year, and he wound up playing for them. And in big moments, I can't believe the Bills would actually do that based on that. Now, if they did, that's fine. I'll be wrong and say, okay. But I'm telling you here that the reason would be, the only reason they would do that is if one of those things were true about one of those players.
Yeah. I want to just clarify for our audience, too. Like, to me, I like Starks as a prospect, but I don't think I'm in favor of that being the pick. Emenworry's a very different idea to me. Like, that's a freak show that, to me, could be a real impact difference maker. And Starks, I feel like, is someone who's going to get in the league and, like, hold down a job and do, like, he'll be good, maybe even a Pro Bowler, potentially. But, like, Emenworry's like a different dude. Like, I don't feel like I'm drafting a safety if I'm drafting Emenworry. I'm drafting a weapon. And Starks is a safety.
Yeah, the difference here is, and I understand what you're saying, and I agree, if you have a spot for the guy to play, there's a reason to draft him. I just don't think there's a spot for Malachi Starks to play unless they have no faith in one of the other two guys they have on the roster, one in Taylor Rapp, who's on a very friendly team contract for a good, productive player for them this year, and really going back to when he came to Buffalo, and a second-round pick from a year ago in Cole Bishop. I just don't see them overdrafting one of these guys.
Right. It's a very convincing argument you're making. Ignoring positional value and even like the draft class, would linebacker be the same thing for you as safety? Would you make the same points?
I'd be a little less surprised at linebacker. I still don't think they do it, but I think you have a history here, which is they drafted Terrell Bernard in the third round when Tremaine Edmonds was going into the final year of his contract. They set up his replacement already. However, that said, and I'm talking about Matt Milano here, obviously, because they reworked his contract. He's got 1 year left. They have a guy behind Matt Milano already who led the team in tackles last year, in Dorian Williams. Now, they may very well feel that he is not a 3-down linebacker that's going to get a second contract, and he's a guy that we can go forward with. But he's still got 2 years left, and he still did play pretty well at times. There were inconsistencies, there's no doubt about that. If you want to talk about the middle spot, you could even have a conversation there because Joe Andreessen and Balen Spector are fighting for that spot. Balen Spector can't stay on the field, and we really didn't see enough of Joe Andreessen to know what they truly feel about him as an actual middle linebacker. But no one's playing over Terrell Bernard next year, right? I mean, he's just signed a contract. He's here for 5 more years. So that would be a true backup. So I don't think you do that for the first pick, number 30. But, yeah, could I see it at weak side linebacker? Yeah, it takes me a lot to get there, though.
Jihad Campbell, according to Steve Palazzolo and Sam Monson on their Check the Mic podcast today, said he isn't just the number one linebacker. He's the only consensus first-round linebacker. I don't know if he's weak side or what, but not a position. I told you when I brought it up, ignore the draft class and whatever, but it's not like it's rich, it seems. And the positional value would play into that.
Right.
So
I'm glad you brought up linebacker because the Bills, I saw them attached to Campbell in some way. Like he falls and the Bills end up with him. And I also saw them attached to Carson Schwessinger from UCLA at 30, I think, in mocks, different mocks. And so that would be a mind blower to me too, Sal. I'm with you. I mean, I think there is a trail of breadcrumbs that could get you to, they might want to get something on deck in addition to Dorian Williams to back up Milano, but I don't know about at 30. That just seems kind of nutty to me.
And let's be clear here. If they draft a linebacker in the first round, first of all, we know it would have to be a guy for Matt Milano's spot. It would not be for Terrell Bernard. I mean, that's just not reasonable to even think that, right? guys are not cutting Matt Milano. I mean, if they cut him right now,
right.
they're counting another $11 million of dead cap space. They just reworked his contract to not have to do that, essentially, and not be in that position, right? So you would essentially be drafting a first-round pick saying he has no shot basically to be a starter. That's the way I would look at it, and I can't see that. I guess I shouldn't say no shot to be a starter, but what are you doing? And Matt Milano suddenly becoming a backup at making a cap number of over $12 million after what he's been in this organization? I can't see it.
The Micah Hyde softball game is back. It's a week from Sunday. There was a media event today. I think you were a part of it.
I was, yeah, and it's been an honor for me to be the on-field MC for the Micah Hyde charity softball game. It is back again this year. And I tell you, I remember, guys, when this thing started, 2018, I think, maybe 2019, it was there were 2,500 people there. That was the number that they told me today, because I remember it wasn't that big. And there were discussions about how to make it bigger. Can we make it bigger? Should we even go forward with it? A couple years later, 16,000 people and selling out the place, and it's unbelievable. And I remember, 2 years, no game because of COVID. And then the game that happened a few years ago was the day after the mass shooting at Tops. And I was in those conversations with Micah's team and the Bison's team of how to treat it right, if the game should even be played. And there was a consensus at the end of, I think, Buffalo needs to come together and we can honor the victims here. And everybody did it right. And I think that moment, that game, just showed how important this game is to the community, to Bills fans, to the team, to everybody. So today was a good day to be out there. It was beautiful at Salem Field. Micah talked a lot about it. They're going to be raising a lot of money again this year and obviously having a good time not only with the game but the home run derby.
I might be too sensitive here, but it sounds like you're implying the growth of this event isn't attributable to my sister throwing out the first pitch last year.
Well, you never know. Maybe more people are coming out to see, another heater like that. I don't know.
She did. She did throw a great pitch. Okay. Well, we'll be in touch tomorrow, day one.
Yeah, it should be fun, guys. We'll set it all up, and we'll see what happens between now and then. Thanks a lot.
All right, get some rest. Sal Capaccio on the Wester Hotline. His appearances are always brought to you by New York's only outlet liquor. When you need to stock up, it's the place to buy a case. What's your outlet?
Calls, if you have them for us, 803-0550. We've had 4 guests today. That's why I say that. We haven't even had a chance to look. But the draft is tomorrow night. Let's hear you call your shot. We'll do the same. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog here, WGR.
Day one of the NFL Draft from Green Bay starts tomorrow at 8 p.m. Our coverage will begin at 7 with Nate Geary, Derek Kramer, and myself having you covered throughout round one, with Sal Capaccio also joining us throughout the evening. But our coverage of the draft on WGR is presented by Fiegel Car and Joyce, your border attorneys, and brought to you by New York's only outlet liquor. When you need to stock up, it's the place to buy a case. What's your outlet? By Northtown Automotive Group. Northtown Automotive, the official automotive dealer of the Buffalo Bills. And by Quilted Squirrel. Great websites, more leads, real growth for your business. Learn more at tqsmarketing.com. Saints are picking up the fifth-year option for wide receiver Chris Olave. They're not doing so for offensive tackle Trevor Penning, and the 2025 Hall of Fame game will be played between Detroit and the Chargers. That game will go off on July 31st. Playoff action tonight, 3 games in the NHL and the NBA. We'll start with the NHL. Washington hosts Montreal. Capitals are looking to take a 2-0 series lead at 7. Game 3 for the Stars and Avalanche. Series tied up. That'll get going at 9:30. Then at 10, Game 2 of Oilers-Kings. While over in the NBA, 7 p.m. sees Boston hosting Orlando. Jason Tatum, game time decision. He is dealing with a wrist injury. He is for Boston. 7:30, Cavs have the Heat in town. And then at 9:30, the Rockets take on the Golden State Warriors. It's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Headlines. Paddock Chevrolet celebrating 90 years of being your hometown dealership. I'm Zach Jones for WGR Sports Radio 550.
I think Luther Burden's the name that comes to mind for me out of Missouri. I think he's very, very dynamic with the ball in his hands. Yards after catch ability is very, very nice, but I think the route running profile is just very underdeveloped, and I think you got to have more. And the Matt Miller tweet this week where teams have asked for practice film of Luther Burden running routes, and then Matt Miller posts this 2 or 3 minute clip of him running routes, and I'm like, this isn't even impressive. Like, this is what you came up with? This was the reel that you thought the world needed to see to validate that you're not just a get in space and throwing the ball and ask him to create player? I was pretty surprised by that.
Joe Marino on Luther Burden. There's Walter Nolan, and there's Luther Burden. I would love it if they drafted him.
I mentioned that yesterday,
with their first-round
video
pick.
made the rounds
Walter
over the weekend,
Nolan.
and that Miller posted it, and it was like, question mark, exclamation point, kind of what?
Did you see the tweet about McMillan today from Todd McShay?
I did not.
Or maybe a comment he made that was tweeted, was quoted. Just very negative on Ted McMillan and how essentially on too many plays you just quit. Over the middle, nope. Mm-hmm. Lack of competitiveness, wouldn't run in the process here. He already had some reputation for saying, I'm going to get it wrong. And
no, I know what you're trying to refer to, and I'm trying to scramble.
Didn't like to practice or
right.
something?
Or watching film. Something about film, I think it was.
Some work thing he didn't like doing. And he was public about it, but it might have been a long time ago and maybe not a big deal at all. I've heard people say that and dismiss it. That makes me feel like I shouldn't have even brought it up.
Yeah.
But this thing today is new, and I mean that's a prominent guy who's like he's connected and not a fan.
Right. And that's not like I'm hearing this, right? Because a lot I've mentioned today a few times, like, we're in full on smoke. I mean, there's fires everywhere, and there's smoke drifting into your smoke and my smoke. There's just smoke, and a lot of that always feels to me like teams are leaking information to different reporters, and this injury concerns, red flags, this and that, and there's some motivation from teams within all that to just try to scramble the deck, find some way to have it be advantageous for you to have a guy fall to you or whatever it is, right? That McShay thing, that's not that at all. Like, I'm watching this guy. I'm a pro. I do this. This is my job. And I'm telling you, there's this. Like, that's a very different kind of thing. The result could be the same. Some team could end up feeling great if he's there at 15 or something when everyone thought he was going to be the first receiver off the board. I don't know. Maybe he still will be, but it might not be until, 10 o'clock at night.
Maybe. There's more on this just from the last few minutes from Jay Glazer, not specific to McMillan. We can bring up here. Let's talk to Jack first. Hi, Jack.
Maybe you say, guys. How's it going?
Good.
Yeah, I just had a question about what you guys thought about trading up and taking that Mike Green from Marshall.
I mean, I wouldn't. How high do you think you'd have to go?
In the mocks I saw, it was like 15, 16, and I think we would have to give up a second and maybe more.
Yeah, that's a
right.
big price, and I would not want to do that either. But I mean, the player sounds like a fine idea. I just wouldn't want to pay extra for the privilege of drafting him myself.
Would you draft him at 30?
Yes.
I think you might be able to.
I think I would.
Sometimes he's down there, or not in the first round.
James Pierce at 30 is another decent idea, I think, too, if he gets that far.
So this is a character question guy, Pierce?
Is that what it is?
I mean, Trapezo says he's his number one overall player.
Right.
But I saw a mock where he went 41.
Okay, yeah.
So.
Yeah, I don't know what the I've not dug in on, I've not seen it referenced, like what is the potential problem with him.
His favorite food is French vanilla ice cream. I've just found it. It's off the board. Bam. Goodbye. Never, ever. Jay Glazer.
Not taking the bait.
Just going to go unchecked there.
Yep.
Jay Glazer tweets, interesting thing came up in my draft prep calls. For years, teams have pulled players off their board for injury concerns or character concerns. A third category or reason has been added this year. Most teams I talked to had guys off their board for, quote, doesn't love football. This was the first year it was so prevalent. I asked around why. The thought was NIL. Guys have been paid already. Some feel they don't need to grind to get paid. So the guys who, quote, love football are probably appreciated more. I've never been comfortable with, maybe they haven't had players removed from boards that often over the years, but that's been a thing long before NIL, for years. You've had does he really love football?
Mario Williams is, to me, like the definitive example of a guy who I think just didn't love it. He was a freak show of an athlete and excelled at it, but I never felt like he was just dying for it, and not everybody is. There's probably more guys that are more in the middle of that spectrum than the far end where they just don't love it at all. But I think he always struck me as a guy that was able to get where he got and just all right, this is going to be the avenue that's going to make me rich and my family rich, and like I'm not sneezing at that. Go for it, but it's a tough guy to get in bed with, I think. And he had a good career and it was a good bill, but I always felt like there was more there. But he did well enough. I mean, the Bills gave him $96 million or whatever the hell they did,
and he was a 101.
Yeah,
in the draft. New mock draft I'd like to mention. I haven't refreshed Twitter here since I've seen it, but it says 10 seconds ago. So this has got to be the freshest,
pretty fresh
mock draft in the game from Lindsay Rhodes of Sumer Sports. Let's see, who were they? Let me get the. I'm going to sort of test you on this one.
Okay.
The names we've talked about the most. I'm trying to see who's been taken. The caller brought up Mike Green. He goes 15, so right where the caller Jack, thanks Jack, said he was seeing Mike Green. Maybe that's right. I don't see Trey Amos, and he was not Lindsay's choice for the Bills at 30. Walter Nolan's gone in this mock. Grant is gone, 27 and 24 respectively. So it got interesting. No Hairston, the Kentucky corner. I don't see him hardly ever anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So, and the Bills didn't take him. Emin Wari goes 29 to Washington. I've seen that many times.
What a gut punch that's going to be for me on Thursday night.
Luther Burden is not picked in this mock draft. He's rarely shown in round one anymore. Who do you think it is?
I think it is going to be...
Before you guess, can I give you one more?
Okay.
No Starks either.
Okay. I'm going to say that it is Boston College edge Donovan Izaraku.
Here he goes 32.
I've seen him a couple times.
I've seen him a couple times.
And he's usually in that region of the draft.
Correct.
I feel like.
I mentioned Establish the Run, their mock draft show today. He went 29 to Washington. So they had the chance at him. in Lindsey Rhodes' world, but they did not pick him.
Okay, so it's not Starks, it's not Trey Amos, it's not this edge guy I just mentioned, it's not Luther Burden, you said. Matthew Golden's gone, it's not going to be that.
Matthew Golden goes 12. Where's McMillan? 20.
This is all a big size. It's that Ohio State running back you mentioned earlier.
Even better.
Oh, no.
O'Marion Hampton.
Oh, Jesus.
Even better. Running back 2. The draft is going. I hope this is right. I think. The draft is going along all night, and, there's a lot of hype about these running backs. We had Genty at 6, but that's it. Denver goes receiver. Pittsburgh goes Shadur. That's it. And you get to Washington at 29. And who's on the coverage? Just name any person.
Mike Greenberg.
Name anyone else. Charles Davis.
Okay, sure.
Will you give me Charles Davis? Charles, was he here?
No, give me anyone else. I don't know.
Okay, that's fair.
What do you got against Greenberg? He's not an analyst. You're looking for someone who's going to analyze it and not just steer the ship. That's
Thank
what you're
you.
thinking.
Yeah, we'll go with that.
How about Mel Kiper?
Mel Kiper, good one. Mel Kiper says, all the running back hype, I don't know. Here's Washington. Let's go back to Baltimore at 27. At 27, O'Marion Hampton is a faller. We were talking about maybe 3 or more running backs possibly going in round 1. Never was going to be just one. I wonder if Baltimore's the team, Derrick Henry getting older. No, they take Walter Nolan. Okay. Detroit is nobody's running back team because they have 2. So, nope. Somebody going to trade up for a running? Nope. 29 is Washington. And okay, well, talent for Jaden Daniels. Brian Robinson's fine, but this is a step up.
Mm-hmm.
Here we go. Nope. Emin-Wari. And then it's the Bills. And they all sort of look at each other like, well, James Cook wants. Did the dollar amount go up today, by the way, in James Cook? His brother's tweeting $20 million?
20 million his brother's tweeting. Yeah.
We didn't even mention that yet.
I don't know. Yeah.
There's some speculation that the Bills will not want to pay him. So could they? And they just sort of all look at each other, and we all look at each other. And O'Marion Hampton is sitting. Is he there? I don't even know if he's there, but he's the guy they're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
The defensive tackles went.
I am curled up on a ball.
I know.
I'm not even in the room where the TV is. I can still hear it, but I'm in the hallway between the kitchen and the foyer in a ball on the floor.
That's why I want this. That's enough of a reason for me to want this.
I know.
Could the Bills
care about my mental health?
What does it mean for James Cook? Brandon Beane knows he's picking Hampton, and what he's really thinking about is, all right, what am I going to say after I do this? What am I going to say? Well, I'm going to say best available player, 12 first-round grades. That was accurate. He's one of them. If not for Genty, this guy would have been gone a long time ago. We're very fortunate. We love James because they always say that a billion times.
Yeah.
Bean, Allen, they all they swear to you how much they love. It just gets weird almost how much they love the guy that we're wondering about. We love Jimbo. We feel this player has a chance to really be a difference maker, and we're excited to have him.
I'm going to work very hard right now. I don't know if it's in the show's best interest to not get emotionally, overreact to this scenario because I cannot fathom it playing out.
Sumer Sports.
I just cannot.
I know things.
Cannot fathom the Bills drafting a running back at 30. No, I just can't. They would have to have some. That James Cook has to be moved in this scenario, I think.
Okay.
And I'm not against that. But I still would not. I'd rather replace him with a guy drafted on Saturday in a deep running back class than spend my most premium asset on someone to replace the other best thing about my offense other than the quarterback. Again, I'm working to not overreact to something that I don't think is going to happen.
Bills trade up to 19, and Cook is in the deal for Hampton, and they pick Hampton at 19. Who's 19? I just closed it. I know 20 and 21. I don't know 19.
No, I don't either. I'm not even going to look. I don't want to dignify this conversation by moving my mouse.
Tampa. That's the team they got Allen from. There's history here.
I cannot be more invested in hating this idea.
They play each other.
Just cannot. I couldn't be. This is
Bulldog.
This is like the Watkins trade.
Oh,
but like on acid. Like I just can't even. No.
Well, it's 30. It's not 4. But.
No, I know, but still, it might as well be. If I get a guy that's as good as James Cook on Saturday, then it's LSD induced. Yes.
Friday's show. Could you ever miss it? Could you ever miss it if they do this? And you cannot get through if they do this.
And I'm getting bludgeoned by people who love it because they're watching North Carolina highlights for the first time in their lives.
I just was going to say, that was the punchline. The first caller is like, will you get off your butt and watch YouTube clips of this player? Because that's right. They just did it for the first time that day.
And you should have seen him tear up Maryland.
You should have seen him tear up Maryland.
What?
This guy, literally tore up Maryland. He was so strong, the field just flew up.
Maryland is turned into Delaware. It's like the coast of Delaware now.
Obviously, Bulldog is old because he knows North Carolina and Maryland do not compete in sports anymore because they're in different conferences, even though they're 5 minutes apart. That's exaggerated. They're not 5 minutes apart, but one is Big Ten and one is ACC.
That's right. That sucks. I thought I really had that. I really wanted that to be accurate.
Come on, everybody. Can't we root for this as a community? Can't we get together on this?
Yeah, Maryland, of course, with all their ties to the Midwest, should be in the Big Ten.
Yes. North Carolina is the SWAC now.
It's like not a place you can stand in Maryland and not see the ocean, and they're in the Big Ten. Okay, great, whatever. Yeah. Sounds great.
They're in the SWAC.
Makes a lot of sense.
They moved. All right. Thank you, Lindsay Rose. You don't even know how big a help you just were. Let's go. She's a good follow. 803-0550. The draft begins tomorrow night at 8. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog here. Let's go. WGR. Mold season is here, and if I don't know this myself, because I do, it doesn't take much for a small problem to turn into a big one. I'm going to speed this up. Buffalo.pauldavis.com. These people have been to my house 3 times as of today, and I could not be more impressed. Everything about it. They know what they're doing. They're super nice about it. They do the heavy lifting. Like, it's really, and you got to get this problem fixed. Paul Davis Restoration, buffalo.pauldavis.com. We welcome your calls on the draft, which kicks off tomorrow night, 8 Eastern. Let's go to Bill next. Hi, Bill.
Hey, how's it going?
Good, man. Thanks.
Talking about drafting a running back in James Cook, I found thinking of that only because, if I remember correctly, didn't Dallas come out and recently say that they're talking about making some trades or moves, maybe for a named players or something to that effect?
Yeah, they did.
So, what do you think about James Cook? I mean, do you think that would be a team that would be interested in him? Because that would be the only way I could see them drafting running back, obviously.
They're almost the only team I could imagine being interested in him.
Yeah.
Because I don't think they have a clue.
They're the first team you call if you're trying to trade a running back or really any asset that you're reluctant to pay that they might have a higher opinion of and be willing to do it. So, yeah, I mean, I've said for weeks here, maybe whenever we first started, whenever the googly eye emojis first showed up from James Cook about $15 million, like, call Dallas. Like, I don't think anyone's going to do it, but call Dallas.
Dalvin Cook finished the season with Dallas, by the way, too. But, like with Diggs, it was always Dallas because of his brother. Is Cook going to now be Dallas because, the caller didn't bring that up. But
no.
Dalvin Cook tweeted today his thing there is a Cowboys logo.
Yeah, his avatar.
Avatar is the word I always forget.
Yeah.
His avatar is a Cowboys logo, and he thinks his brother's worth $20 million. With the 200s after it. Is that like getting to the 100 emojis?
Yeah, I think that's percent, I think.
It's usually 100%, but if you do, no, he could be using it more literally. $20,100,100.
Yeah.
What do you think of that? No, that's not what he meant.
No chance. But I don't know why you need two of those.
Why do you need two of those?
One is emphatic enough.
Who says 200%? Some people do. You hear it.
Yeah.
200%. What do you hear? What percent that is larger than 100 do you hear most often? 110%.
Yes.
Then I think second would be 1,000%. You'll hear 1,000%. And then what's third?
I don't think there is a third.
150%.
No.
100
never heard that.
1%. You never hear that.
No. 110 is definitely the next most often cited percentage.
It's the leader.
Yeah.
Did you see that the Angels game tomorrow is set to start at 6:29?
Yes, I read this today.
Because that's the latest allowable time on getaway day for a start. And the players are not happy.
Right. Because they got to travel to Minnesota afterwards, and their game will start
6:29 Pacific.
1 minute before, and 31 minutes before like a normal night game start.
Yeah. Or even later sometimes now, like Cleveland starting at 6. The Bisons are starting at 6. Pittsburgh starts early, sometimes at least. Great job, Angels. That's the kind of stuff that wins over a room.
Yeah.
Because they're going to draw that much better?
Right, a couple thousand extra people, I guess, probably, for a Thursday afternoon, loosely, ball game. All right. Who are they playing?
I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't follow baseball.
Yeah, all right.
Pittsburgh, so it's not that fun.
Pittsburgh. Yeah. It's your team, right? Angels.
It is my team.
6:29.
If Skeens were pitching, then that's a draw.
Yeah, if Skeens is pitching, different story.
Yeah.
Maybe he is.
And I don't know that he is or isn't.
I don't believe he is pitching against the Angels at all.
Okay.
He's not pitching tonight.
Thank you for that
or
update.
Tomorrow.
Our Angels reporter, Zach Jones.
6:29. Great job. So 9:30, our time for that one.
Right.
Let's move it up a minute. 803-0550, talking draft, which we just were. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog here. We'll look for your calls again after the update. This is WGR.
1 day away from the start of the NFL draft in Green Bay, Howard Simon and Joe Marino continue to put up draft profiles up at our website, WGR550.com. Wide receivers, the latest position to get an in-depth look. Wide receivers, TCU's Jack Besh, Iowa State's Jaden Hingmans, among others, being highlighted. Our coverage of the 2025 NFL Draft right here on WGR is presented by Figo Car and Joyce Shore Border Attorneys and brought to you by New York's only outlet liquor. When you need to stock up, it's the place to buy a case. What's your outlet? By Northtown Automotive Group, Northtown Automotive, official automotive dealer of the Buffalo Bills, and by Quilted Squirrel. Great websites, more leads, real growth for your business. Learn more at tqsmarketing.com. Our coverage is going to start tomorrow at 7 p.m. Nate Geary, Derek Kramer, and myself will have you covered throughout the draft in Green Bay. Sal Capaccio will also join us throughout the evening. The Saints are picking up fifth-year option on wide receiver Chris Olave. They are not doing so for offensive tackle Trevor Penning. And the 2025 Hall of Fame game will be between Detroit and the LA Chargers. Playoff action tonight, 3 games in the NHL. Montreal is in Washington to take on the Capitals. That game starts at 7. Game 3 for Stars Avalanche. Series is tied up. That'll get going at 9:30. Then at 10, Game 2 of Oilers Kings. 3 games also in the NBA. 7 p.m. sees Boston hosting Orlando. Jason Tatum, game time decision due to a wrist injury. 7:30, Cavs have the Heat in town. Then 9:30, the Rockets will take on the Golden State Warriors. That's Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update. Paddock Chevrolet celebrating 90 years of being your hometown dealership. I'm Zach Jones for WGR Sports Radio 550.
It's Mike Schopp and the Bulldog.
They have this Panther sound effect that is just the cheesiest, stupidest sounding thing. Big voice guy going, Panther goal scored by Sam Reinhart. Where'd you get that thing?
I trapped it. Been keeping it in my bathroom at the motel, feeding it old pizza.
It's Mike Schopp.
If you're calm, that wondrous big cat will be calm too. But if you're scared, that beautiful death machine will do what God made it to do, namely, eat you with a smile on its face.
And the Bulldog. On WGR Sports Radio 550.
So, well, of course I had to click on it. Luther Burden trending. I'm glad to see analysts and I think fans touting Luther Burden, who I've made my favorite receiver prospect here. Chase Daniel, who's in the analyst business, has him as his wide receiver 1 when eliminating Travis Hunter. Upside, right? Upside. Okay, so there's this film thing. Sophomore wide receivers to post a 90-plus PFF receiving grade in the SEC. Jamar Chase, Luther Burden. Yeah, Luther Burden was a 5-star recruit, tied for his team lead with 9 TDs as a true freshman, had 1,200-plus receiving yards as a sophomore, and led all NCAA receivers in broken tackles as a junior before declaring early. But is he even good? This is good stuff here.
It's a fair question.
Usually, is it? I usually don't read the comments, but he's exciting to me.
This route running thing doesn't bother you at all?
Not really, no.
Well, why is that exactly? That seems like something that should matter.
Because the Bills have a collection of receivers that can do some things. What I want for them is a destructor, somebody that just, he's too good. And it's a very respectable trait. I mean, I'm not saying route running is meaningless. But what I like, even with McMillan in mind, what I like about Burden is the idea that he takes the top off, that he's just too good. And that makes him, for me, the one guy that, I mean, that doesn't have to be what he is in the NFL, but that makes him, for me, the one guy that excites me of the receivers. McMillan kind of really doesn't. Ibuka is a slot receiver who's more like a Shakir duplicate.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't think, and Golden, I don't like at all because he's all speed, and even that's in question, like even his time.
I don't think it's fair to say he is all speed. You say that often.
You're right.
I see him get a lot of credit for his footwork, he sounds very exciting to me. I like him I'm not against the Burden idea, but the tape thing freaked me out. The route running, because, I mean, that's how you create separation. That's how you get open. So I like that he is someone who can scare a defense because he might be a threat to score anywhere he catches the ball on the field. But at inception, I need you to get open to get the ball. And so, I'm not saying you can't improve on that or get better at that, but it's a big deterrent to me. And Golden, I feel like, is just a more well-rounded player than that. I don't think he's the threat with the ball in a sense. In fact, the opposite, really. You hear about him is that he's not really going to do much once he catches it. Right? He's not open field, making guys miss, powerful, anything like that. But I trust he's someone who is going to get open in the first place and is fast enough to take the top off the defense. So, I don't know. I'm talking about a guy that's probably going to be gone by pick 20 anyway, Golden, because I think people do seem to like him despite you objecting to him. I like him a lot.
I think you're right to call me on that. But every time I hear his name, I hear John Ross and Darius Hayward-Bay.
Right.
And it's Scott Barrett's voice in my head. Like the least predictive trait is your 40 time.
Right.
Of success in the NFL. I almost want somebody slower. That's right. McMillan.
It's funny. I liked him before he ran the 40. I thought he's like reading up on guys. I thought this guy sounds like someone that could be interesting to me. And I remember, I saw him and Bond play a few times at Texas. This is a decent idea. And he ran the time, and okay, that's over because everybody he's got enough of the other stuff that now if he's going to run a 4.29, then he's not going to be available to me probably. So I sort of dismissed it as an idea. I don't like that he ran either, but it's mostly because I think it probably puffed him up a little bit. So I think he probably is a little bit overrated and might get overdrafted, but I still think he's got the potential to be an excellent player.
All right. Well, I will settle for he's probably gone anyway, and right. Maybe you're right about everything you're saying here. Burden is going to be probably gettable, and I just love how he reads. I mean, not perfect, but I don't want to worry about what he couldn't do as a junior at Missouri. Like, it's always about how the quarterback was bad, and they used him in short yardage target stuff. Preventing him from being able to be like the maximum player.
I'm with you on all that. I would not. Before I saw this stuff about him running routes last week, I was sort of right there with you as an idea at 30. I mean, I'm going to like any receiver idea just about. If you just bring it to me, it's kind of the opposite of running back. Like, okay, you want to do this? That sounds great to me. And because mostly what was dinging him when we were talking about him 2 weeks ago, even, it was that, like, he didn't put up numbers during his last year. And yeah, there's a lot of factors that go into that. And the quarterback and the offense you're running and how they're using him is a big one. So the year before, I mean, he was over, it was like 1,200 yards or something on 80 catches or whatever. I mean, I buy that there's a better player in there than what was on the field last year. But this other part is more concerning to me than that.
Mm-hmm. 803-0550. The draft is tomorrow night. Starts at 8. I liked a Warren Sharp tweet today. Wait, I'm looking at it now and didn't physically like it. There's the heart. Recent track record of quarterbacks drafted outside the top 12 has been horrific. 6 quarterbacks drafted in the first 3 rounds since 2021, so 4 drafts, outside of the top 12. Mac Jones in the teens, maybe even 13
the teens. I think it was in the teens, yeah.
Kenny Pickett, Will Levis, early second.
Mm-hmm.
Desmond Ridder, maybe even third.
Third, I think, yeah.
Malik Willis, third.
Yeah.
Davis Mills. Warren writes, those are the guys who played. Forget about Matt Corral, Kellen Mond, Kyle Trask, and Hendon Hooker. 10 quarterbacks drafted in the first 3 rounds, but outside of the top 12. Are we leaving anybody out on purpose that was drafted in round 4 here to make a point? Is there anybody that comes to mind in the last 4 years that's actually good? Would Warren even do that?
I can't think of a late. I mean, when was Purdy drafted?
Purdy's the one.
Purdy was.
That's why he said first 3 rounds.
The last pick of the draft.
You have other quarterbacks drafted outside the first 3 rounds that are older, like Prescott.
Right.
Or, I'm not sure, he isn't the only other one. Maybe there's someone else. Russell Wilson was a 3rd-round pick.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why he says first 3 rounds. He leaves out Purdy on purpose. He was the last pick of his draft, the very last pick.
Right.
But the thing about Sanders, Dart, Milroe that makes sense is they're not drafted in the first 20 picks or even 30. But somebody likes them. Somebody likes one of them. Browns, Giants, Saints. Who else? Somebody likes one of them. Raiders even. And trades up.
Steelers.
So one of those teams that wants one of those guys trades up. Maybe 2 teams do this for 2 of these guys and bust the under 2.5 quarterback bet. And they take them. The problem that seems all very logical. And I think the Bills will have that option. They certainly will have that option. Well, I say certainly. They probably will have that option if this fall happens.
Mm-hmm.
At 30, somebody might be calling for one of these quarterbacks. And they probably should do it if they get that call. That's probably a pretty needy team. Like, they're going to make a good offer for that player. Anyway, it just sounds like none of them is that promising. So it's one thing. This is always the dilemma. This was the Bills' dilemma over the years, in the drought years, and including to Allen. I'm not sure they would see it as a dilemma, but we don't really love the prospect, but we have to do it.
Yeah, E.J. Manuel. Buddy Nick said as much.
Yeah, he did.
That private conversation he was having with the Tampa guy that got out somehow. It's a bad year to need one, but we need one. And so they drafted E.J. Manuel, and we all know how that turned out.
Right. And I was always very critical of them not doing that more often because I still think that's the play. I think the Titans' choice of Ward is the play, even with Hunter available. I think, you do it. Your coach, GM, your players, your fans, they deserve that. And I think that exists for the Browns, who are right now at who? Pickett and Flacco?
Right.
And the Giants, who are at Wilson and Winston. That's a little bit more established. But still, like somebody young would make sense. Pittsburgh is at Mason Rudolph and Skylar Thompson, former Bills playoff opponent. Both of them.
That's right.
How about that? Didn't realize that, but those guys both. And Mac Jones was the other one. He's in San Francisco now in that run of wild card wins against kind of lousy quarterbacks.
Did you see Andrew tweeting about Milroe today?
No.
He was active today, but he said something about the sources, whatever, that Milroe, the Steelers love Milroe.
That's good for you.
It's not at 21. It's not going to win me a bet.
If they love him, they move up.
Maybe. But them. Here, I'm back to our conversation from almost 3 hours ago with Nick Costas now about we can't bet the draft, but specifically, if there were a way for me to package second quarterback chosen and the destination, the Steelers, I would get all over that. I love that for them. I love that idea for them. I love that player. I think my flag plant on this draft class, recognize that I am not one of these mock drafter tape guys, is that Milroe's going to be the best quarterback out of this draft. It ain't going to happen this September or even this December, but I think he's going to be the best quarterback out of this class. And that's what I would be trying to get. And there is plenty of course, criticisms of why he doesn't deserve to be a first-round pick. But nobody is denying the tools and the talent. And that is what I would be doing. I'm the Steelers. I've been living the high life. I'm in the not the high life, but I'm living the medium life. What's the medium life? What beer is that? I mean, Miller. I don't know. But they're in the playoffs. But they have enough credit that they could just get through a year devoting it to this guy's going to be in the wings. He's going to learn, and he'll hopefully take flight next year for us. And we're just going to get through this year. And I know maybe it makes more sense to just do that anyway and draft somebody next year. But the talent, I'm so intoxicated by the running is compared, not it doesn't get laughed at. It's compared to Lamar Jackson. The arm strength is the best in the class.
He's just wildly inaccurate.
and needs to really hone in on that stuff. Like character, alpha dog, leader of the team, first guy in, last guy out. Like, I can't believe some team didn't sit with him and just go, yeah, that's my quarterback.
The Steelers are the Bud Light Bills. How does that work for you?
Okay. Yep, that works.
That's a more commonly used expression these days to my ears. The Bud Light blank, right?
Oh, yeah, I haven't heard that. Okay.
The Steelers, Matt Harmon used it with us about somebody. He's a Bud Light Keon Coleman or something like that. Yeah, we'll go with that. The Steelers are the Bud Light Bills. I've been meaning to say this, and I need to say it. In case you're wondering, you actually cannot bet the draft in Pennsylvania.
Okay. Yes, let's clarify that.
Here's my excuse. Here's what I think happened in my brain. As soon as you told me that somebody pointed that out to you, I remembered knowing that. I knew that. I knew you can't bet the draft in Pennsylvania. I remember asking Andrew last year or the year before about it, and he's like, no, wherever it is, West Virginia or wherever it is that's closest. But no, you can't bet the draft in Pennsylvania. And I think I just started liking how it sounded. I'm going to have to drive to Pennsylvania.
Right. And because it's doable, and because have you not done that before?
I drove to Pennsylvania.
Was legal here, you went and did it there.
Yes, to bet a game.
Right.
Yes, I did that once.
So not the draft,
but not the draft. Right. So I have that too stuck in my mind. And I think I just started liking how it sounds. Drive to Pennsylvania. I'm going to have to drive to Pennsylvania. Like, it sort of works.
Right.
But unfortunately,
it's not true.
You cannot bet the draft in Pennsylvania. A friend of mine texted me today, when we had the conversation off the air earlier, I'm like, I got to mention this. And I saw the text from him. I started to read it. I dreaded he went because of me. But he didn't. I read it more. I read it carefully. He said he was already going for something else.
Okay.
But he was excited to bet on the draft
and then found out. Yeah, tough one.
So please do not go to Pennsylvania for that purpose. I'm sure there are other good reasons to go there. Sheets. But do not go to Pennsylvania for the purpose of betting on the draft, because you will not be allowed to. There. Got that in.
Good to clarify.
Yes. Yes. That needed to be said. Well, tomorrow's it.
Tomorrow.
There should be at least a couple interesting player trades tomorrow night, too. Kirk Cousins is, maybe a strong possibility to be traded. Mark Andrews, I think, is interesting. And Dallas Goedert from the Eagles.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe the Eagles move Goedert for a rookie tight end. That's been speculated about. Mason Taylor, perhaps. Jair Alexander seems like somebody for this. And there are others. We talked about Jalen Ramsey. There were odds on this that we talked about yesterday for a minute, or Monday.
You're not even mentioning the potential blockbuster between the Cowboys and the Bills involving pick 30, pick 56, James Cook, and Micah Parsons coming the other way.
30 and Cook for 19. That's not Dallas.
Dallas is 12?
12. Chicago's 10, Dallas is 12. Wow, what's that? 30 and Cook for next year's 1 and 12. That's what that would. And then give me a third. That would be incredible. Would that have to wait until pick 12 is up?
I would think so, yeah.
And the Bills would want who? Yeah, it's not worth the Bills doing it.
I don't know. Yeah, in my scenario, they were trading for Micah Parsons, not a draft pick. Like I'm trying to build a package to get Micah Parsons.
That is what you said. Chris Trapasso every Wednesday with us, including earlier today. We'll have that draft-centric conversation next. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog, WGR.